What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 9 of the Reactor Corps. This is a special podcast that we do here at the Whatnauts, where we get to talk about kind of whatever big Hollywood blockbuster movie we want to, or Netflix show. And this week, it's all about Avengers Endgame. I'm so excited.
Blockiest, busteriest picture I've ever seen.
There you go, exactly. My name is Kyle Springer, and joining me on the opposite side of the computer screen is Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Kyle. I'm doing as well as I expected. How are you?
I am good. I am so excited to talk about this.
Yes.
It's been I saw this movie on Thursday, and you saw it yesterday, which is a Friday. We're recording this on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had an extra day to just sit
have.
and stew and think on all of this stuff.
We wanted to see it on Friday, my friend and I, because we wanted to take an entire vacation day and make a day out of it and be well rested and attentive, and we didn't just come from the office, we're focused on this movie.
Exactly.
So that's why we planned it like that. But I have absorbed as many Easter eggs and explanations and things you missed videos as I could have in the last 12 hours since I got home.
There you go. Well, before we dive into that, I just want to mention that we will be doing spoiler-free stuff first, giving our thoughts and general impressions, as well as just our experience going to the theater. I always like talking about that stuff, because this was an experience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get into spoiler territory, we will do a recap of the movie, that sort of stuff. So that's what you're in for this episode. So you made a whole day of this. You'd been planning this thing for a while. You mentioned it to me a while back. What all did you do? Because you took the day off of work, right?
Yeah, which I never do, only for very special occasions. I had to leave my office family behind to go see my superhero family. My friend and I, we went out to brunch.
Mm-hmm.
While we were having brunch, we did an MCU fantasy draft.
Yes.
Which is too long to go into here, but I can explain it on the Captain's Log.
You did mention it on an episode of the Captain's Logs. You guys can go check that out at thewhatnauts.com. Yeah,
we did that. We went out to a weird department store that's hard to explain because, it's just an extra fun, special thing to fill time. And it feels like walking into another time in another realm. It feels like walking into limbo. I can't explain this department store. But we went there because it seemed thematically appropriate and would fill up some hours. We drove around. We looked at houses. We listened to this. I accidentally made a 4.5-hour mixtape. I started I'll make a playlist we can listen to while we're driving around, and I didn't even try.
Long.
oh, this is much longer. This is the movie and another half of the movie.
Oh man,
I kind of overdid this. We did that. We went to our movie. We were all dressed up. The aesthetic we went for was sci-fi funeral. So we're both wearing all black with star accessories. I have this Peggy Carter red lipstick on. We saw the movie, and then we just sat in a booth at the Red Robin with I had a big margarita, and we just tried to decompress.
Both of you were just silent.
It was a lot like the shawarma scene at the end of Avengers. We were so quiet after the movie because what? It is so much to process.
It really is. So I didn't do anything nearly as exciting. I worked that day. I went straight from work to the movie theater. I took an Uber there, and it's amazing to me that people don't realize that this movie exists. I mentioned once my driver figured out that I was going to the movies, she was like, "Oh, I don't need the GPS. I know where it is." And she asked me what I was seeing. I was like, "Oh, the new Avengers movie." And her response was just like, "Oh, there's a new Avengers movie? I had no idea. I didn't even know they were making more of those." She's like, "How
old was this woman?"
She was old enough to drive, and she had a kid. So
okay.
maybe she seemed a little younger, so maybe in her 20s somewhere, but
Wow.
who knows. But
Huh.
yeah, it was just like it was baffling to me. That's like, this is one of the big, this is arguably the biggest like pop culture movie thing of the past decade.
Yeah.
How have you missed this? Where I live in Richmond, where do you live? Like um
The only way you could miss the Avengers is if you were in the Avengers.
yeah, basically. Um so that was wild for me. But I got to the movies. There was no line. I walked right in. The theater was already full, so they must have had that theater empty and ready to go because they knew like that first showing was gonna be there. So instead of making them wait in line, I think they just let them all in.
Mhm.
And I sat in the front section, so not ideal because it was already packed, but far enough back where I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm watching this
Yeah.
movie on the ceiling. It
Yep.
was enough for me to like lean back and just be like, this is a giant screen and this is
Mhm.
fantastic. And I sat dead center. It was great.
Oh, nice. We were up there, but we had to be like way over on the right side. Still perfect. Still great.
It was still good. Yeah. So that was fun. So just general thoughts. What did you think?
I really liked it. It was very, very satisfying.
Absolutely.
There's a
Incredibly
couple
satisfying.
questions I wanted answers to, but I understand why they were not answered now.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the feeling I don't have to wait very much longer for that to be explained to
Who
me
knows? We'll
what was
see.
happening. It was such a loving bow at the end of everything. It was a
Mm-hmm.
great finale and also such a great, like, it's not a series finale, it's a season finale. It's like, here's the end of this arc.
Yeah.
We're getting set up for the next arc.
Yeah, because even my roommates aren't as big into
Mhm.
the Marvel stuff. I am going with one of my roommates to go see it again on Tuesday because she
Mhm.
really wants to go see it. But yeah, I mean, they're not as big of a comic book nerd as I am. They aren't as up to date on the news. They at least knew the movie existed, unlike
Yeah.
my Uber driver. But they were like, yeah, so what's happening after this? Like, are there more Marvel movies after this? What's
Oh.
going on with that? And I was like, yeah, there's sequels that have been confirmed, stuff like that. But yeah, like it's basically like the story they've been telling over the past decade is ending with this one. There
Mhm.
still will be Marvel movies after this, but just this one particular story happens to be coming to an end.
Mhm.
But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was
Yes.
incredibly satisfying.
Mhm.
I think it's what a time to be alive. This is
It
movie making
is.
history, and
I'm
we got to
s
see it.
Exactly, like, they pulled off the impossible. This start like, you look back at, like, 2008, 2009 when Iron Man came out, and it's like, "Okay, well, we'll see how this goes," and they're setting it up from that moment,
Yeah,
and they pulled it off. Nothing went awry. Like, they got from the beginning to the end they were planning over a decade ago, and that never happens.
yeah,
You look at other franchises that try to start off like the Universal Dark Universe, and that didn't work. Or sometimes
yeah.
things are continuing, but
I
they're not
don't
faring
think
very well.
I don't think anyone else has done a cinematic universe to that
No,
extent. And
no.
since Marvel, or if at all,
Hmm.
arguably Star Wars, but since Marvel started, I don't think anyone else has succeeded anywhere near what they've
No,
done.
many
DC
imitators, no duplicators.
failed. You mentioned the like monster movie one that
Hmm.
barely got through one movie.
Hmm.
Like yeah, there's so much stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna do a cinematic universe now, and no one else has stepped up,
No.
and that's amazing. How
Uh,
in a decade no one else has been able to just start it and start it right, like they
no.
like
No.
Marvel has.
Nobody. This got to 4 Avengers movies. Nobody else has even gotten to their equivalent of the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you want to count Justice League, but even
That's
then,
correct. Yes, they did. I'm sorry to throw them by the wayside. I think they're doing all right.
I feel like it's okay to throw that one by the wayside.
They're trying their best and they ain't there yet. They might be in the future. Who knows? We
Who
might
knows?
look back at
We'll see.
ourselves and laugh for not believing in the DC cinematic universe and what it could be.
We did have
But it ain't that
a
now.
previous episode of the Reactor Corps on Shazam, and
Shazam
that
is
was
very
really good.
good.
That was a good film. But yeah, like it's I was about to say it's a marvel to me, and that now I feel terrible. It's
a
just
real astonishing tale that they've
Yeah.
told. I mean, they took us on a real journey into mystery.
Yeah. It's amazing that we get to see this in theaters.
It is. This is history, and I will tell children about it in the future, whether they be mine or others. Just some
Yes,
kids.
absolutely.
Any.
Go see this in theaters if you can. This is something you don't want to miss. I think as a standalone film, I don't know if this one works. I think generally yes. The idea of what they're doing in the film I think makes sense and you can follow it. But it is this movie is 100% payoff for the people who have been following the 22 other films or 21 other films. I think this was the 22nd one if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right.
And yeah, the ones who have kept up with this, and it is just payoff after payoff after fan service after fan service, and I don't know if you've not gotten into the Marvel stuff yet, like my Uber driver, then I don't know if this is necessarily for you yet. Go watch the other films first, and then you will love this.
If you don't want to start at the very beginning, start at just the Avengers plain old 2012 origin point.
Yeah, something like that, or just watch a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff like that. I did think it for the finale. I thought it started off a little bit slow though, but once the action picked up, it picked up.
Yeah, I was watching a video that described this as having such a clear cut first act, second act,
Absolutely.
third act, like more clearly delineated than maybe any other movie I can think of.
Yeah, because it was weird to see that slow start compared to Infinity War, which is action nonstop the entire
right
film. Yeah, and I mean it makes sense, and I kind of even like viewing both of those films as one big thing, rather than like it's their own separate films and stuff. Like Avengers Infinity War, that was the first and start of the second act, and then the like slow section of this movie was the second act, and the finale of this one was the third act, and it's fantastic. So highly recommend it. There is some nitpicks that I have here and there. There's a bunch of unanswered questions, as you mentioned, so not everything gets as neatly wrapped up with a bow, but I imagine they will be exploring some of that stuff in movies to come.
Not like it's like they forgot or they got lazy. It's just this movie was not the time you were getting that answer.
Exactly.
It's planned. It's already planned out for a different thing. It's not unplanned. Exactly.
I don't know if I have any other spoiler-free thoughts that I want to do. Of course, the movie was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo.
Way to go.
I believe it was Joe that had a cameo in the film. He was the one in the support group that was the openly gay guy, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the first openly gay character in the Marvel universe, which sounds strange. Of course, we know Valkyrie is bi because her scene got cut, but
I didn't hear about that.
Strange. And the screenplay was by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who I haven't really heard of their names until now. Of course, they wrote all of the Captain America movies. They did Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. They also did the Agent Carter TV show.
Yeah.
Which I think we will also be talking a little bit about that come spoiler alert stuff. But yeah, so that was neat to be like, oh, I haven't really heard their names mentioned. I've heard the Russos, I've heard Kevin Feige. I haven't really heard them. And
I've heard of them before.
I mean, maybe it's just me and I missed it, but it's neat to me that I'm finally seeing their names on this stuff. Like, they are the ones who actually wrote these. Like, they took the vision that Kevin Feige and the Russos had, and they put it down on paper and made it work.
Yes.
And that is an incredible achievement. So kudos to them.
I think it's a beautifully written film.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was created by a writer team and a director team who have mostly dealt with Captain America shines through, but not in a way where it feels like this is almost Captain America 4.
Yeah. So good stuff. Good stuff. That being said, I think we are going to get into spoiler territory in just a sec here. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping before that. Of course, we do have some other episodes of this show. We previously covered Shazam and Hellboy. So you guys can go get episodes on those if you like. We also did one on Captain Marvel when that came out as well. Excuse me there. Let's see. We also, what did we cover recently on the review show? It was Terror in Resonance was the last one that we did, right? That is
we did.
One of our other podcasts.
Yeah.
And we have one coming up. Melissa, do you want to mention that one?
This is our sort of book club review podcast where we tackle different forms of entertainment. Like last week, it was Terror in Residence, which is an sort of anime. And then this week, we're going to be recording an episode about The Earth Collective, which is a sci-fi audio drama.
Yes, exactly. That's on our website as well, the whatnauts.com. That's the review show. We mentioned the Captain's Log previously, where Melissa mentioned her Marvel Avengers fantasy draft thing. So you guys can go check that out. And I think sometime today, we haven't really discussed it exactly, but we're going to be recording another episode of the Captain's Log sometime after we record this. But
we have to get this out of the way first, because I don't know what I have to talk about in my life that isn't this.
In terms of release date, though, this episode will be out on Tuesday. Which we think just gives people time to go see the film, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that episode of the Captain's Log will be out Monday. New episode of the review show on the Earth Collective will be out Wednesday. I think that's all the housekeeping I have. Go like, share, subscribe, sell your soul, rate, review, whatever you need to do. That would be much appreciated. Let's get into the spoiler alert mode, spoiler territory. There goes our little thing. I still have no sound effect, but I'm hoping to get one soon. Yeah, pew, pew, pew.
Or clang, 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 clang.
Exactly.
That's most appropriate for what we're talking about here.
Exactly. So we are in full spoiler alert mode right now. If you haven't seen the film, go see it. What are you waiting for? Don't listen to us just yet. Go watch the film and then come back. So I have notes.
Good. I took a handful of notes before we started, but as I said, this is a lot to process. I just have like I could spend so much time on only the couple highlights I pulled out.
Oh yeah.
I want to start not to immediately jump on top of the recap. I want to ask you, what did your theater react to the most strongly? I'm wondering if it was the same thing my theater was real excited for.
It was Cap proving himself worthy.
Yes! That is the best part of the film.
I think so.
Especially because, he can pick up Mjolnir, but I did not go so far as to think
at it in Age of Ultron, but it was one of those things of like the end of Inception where you don't really, did it look like it moved a little bit or
Yeah,
not?
it
We
just
don't
sort of
really know,
twitched a
but
little
he
bit.
was, yeah, and he was just like, I don't really care to know,
Yeah.
and so
And
that was fantastic.
we could definitely expect that he could pick it up, but I did not put the connection together. He can't just lift it. He can wield it.
Yeah.
Steve is the god of thunder now. He doesn't just have a big
Steve,
hammer.
God of Thunder. Yeah, so that I think was a fantastic part. There were tons of stuff that we were all like, yeah.
Yes.
But I think that was the one that was the big oh shit moment.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck? Oh my god. That was fantastic because the thought crossed my mind in the back of my head, and I was like, no, they're not gonna do that. And then I was like, it's Thor just calling it with his hand on the side. That's why we don't see someone picking it up and all of that stuff. So like he's just calling it to hit him, and then nope, it is Captain America wielding Mjolnir, and I was like, hell yes, this is great.
Yes.
But let's see. Let's start from the beginning. We're gonna kind of recap this
that part out of the way.
Yeah,
the important thing.
Now that we know the best part of the film,
let's talk about the other parts.
Yeah, we'll kind of talk about things as they happened. I took notes here this morning, just recapping stuff. So it opens immediately with a gut punch.
Yeah,
Hawkeye's family gets dusted. They get snapped.
Knew must be happening, but it's awful to watch, especially because
it's one of those things that we didn't know if they survived or not. We don't know really what happened to him because he wasn't in.
We can
Infinity
see
War.
From the trailers if he's Ronin. You don't be Ronin and then go back home to your wife and kids.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so rough because they're out there in the middle of nowhere. Like if like your wife vanishes next to you while you're on the city street and you can see everybody else vanishing, you get kind of what it is. He's alone. There's not a soul in sight out there on the farm except for him and his family.
Yeah.
And that isolation makes it so much worse.
Do you know? So there was a lot of speculation that the girl he was with, that young girl, was Kate Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
But do we know if that was confirmed?
No, that's his daughter, Lila.
Do we know Lila's middle name?
We don't. I do think it's interesting that she has the name of another. She has the name of another pre-existing Marvel character, Lila Cheney from X-Men, who, while not a big character, it's interesting that they didn't just find a name nobody had.
Command F. Let's see. Where's all the Bartons? 1 of 5 matches. Because I saw an article this morning as I was looking up stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Lila Barton. Weird. That, like, actually called her Kate Bishop. Was like, and so, like, he's standing there with Kate Bishop. I was like, I don't know that they confirmed that.
No.
I don't. We never heard her name. Yeah. Or like we never heard her referred to as Kate. So I was wondering maybe they're gonna do some throwaway thing where her name is like Lila Catherine Barton and her mother's maiden name was Bishop.
Yeah.
And so she just takes the name Kate Bishop as her like secret identity, something kind of thing. Who knows? But yeah, they don't really mention that. But I thought it was so weird. I was like, why are you calling her Kate Bishop? I don't think that was confirmed. But yeah, so Hawkeye's family gets snapped, and he's just like, what the hell is going on? And this is before the Marvel logo pops up, and I thought that was a somber way to start the film and just a reminder of where things were at. I was just like, oh, they're not holding back.
No.
And then immediately after that, we switch to Iron Man and Nebula out in space, stranded.
I liked this.
I thought that was a really funny scene. I thought it was a great scene that they're just sitting there playing paper football.
It's so sweet. And because that's exactly what each of them needs at that time. It's not just like, well, we have to fill time until we die out here in space alone. It's like he needs to teach and craft and nurture something, and she needs some sort of guidance. He's like, I miss being a dad. And she's like, I never had a great dad. How convenient we were placed to each other.
Yeah. So,
I
well,
thought it was very, very sweet.
I think at that time, he wasn't a dad yet at that time.
Oh, that's right. Yes. No, I've got my timelines mixed up because this is a very timeline mixy up film. It's
But
it's a
so
hint.
so yeah,
Nebula was his first daughter.
um, but yeah, it's a good character moment for Nebula. We eventually learn that they tried to kind of rebuild and repair the ship, and they got enough for them to like point them in a direction and send them off for a little bit, but eventually that ran out, and so now they're just at the whims of space.
Yeah.
And hopefully something happens. One thing that I saw in a Easter egg video, it said that they were out there in space for 22 days.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
this is the 22nd film that Marvel has put out. So I thought that was a neat Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually Captain Marvel shows up and saves the day. I'm assuming that her end credit scene from her movie when she shows up is kind of where she gets the information. Hey, these guys are out there somewhere. We don't know where exactly.
Yeah, it's
Off
not
that direction.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Maybe her protocol is maybe whatever message, whatever plans are waiting for her when Fury puts up the, the flare signal to her is go find Tony Stark.
Well, she went to Earth and was like, "Where's Fury?" in her end credit scene, and that's where
I forgot about that end credit scene.
ended. So I'm assuming that they then filled her in on the situation. It was like, hey, here's what's happening. Nick is dead. We're the Avengers. By the way, we're named after you. So yeah. So like, thanks. By the way, one of us is out in space. Can you go get him, please?
Please bring our Tony back.
Yeah, so like we don't know exactly how that worked out, but I'm assuming it was something like that. So she saves the day and brings them back to Earth. They have a bit of a reunion. And Tony Stark is not doing well.
Oh no, he's been just like starved and like oxygen deprived up there in space. Not to mention the emotional stress of all this.
Of thinking he's about to die, basically passing out unconscious right before he dies and gets saved. And Nebula, who's mainly a robot, being like, I don't need to eat, I don't need to breathe, I'm just gonna be stuck here. Like, this is my life now. Which sucks. But yeah, they get back to Earth. They kind of find their feet, and they gather the remaining Avengers, and they're like, all right, we need to figure out what we need to do to go kill Thanos. We need to find him and do something, get the stones back somehow, do something.
Real briefly, when they're in space and Tony like offers Nebula a snack and she's like, no, I don't need it. It's in this like it's in the silver pouch, and it reminded me a lot of the bit
Space
in the
food.
first it reminds me of the bit of the first Avengers where they're all in like the lab around the scepter or something, and Tony's like making snarky comments and eating this bag of like freeze-dried blueberries, and he holds it out to like Steve or Bruce or somebody. He's like, blueberry? Like, it's like the same kind of bag. It reminded me of that little bit a lot.
That's funny. Yeah. So they eventually formulate a plan. They locate Thanos. They go to where he's at, the planet he's at, and he's just simple farmer Thanos. Exactly
like the end of Infinity Gauntlet. He just, after he does all that, he's like, I don't know, I guess I'll garden.
Yeah, I just am cooking with Thanos. So in this oven, we set that for 30 minutes, and so yeah, he's just at home, and they capture him, and they find out that he destroyed the Infinity Stones.
Yes.
And basically at that, Thor's like, fuck it, off with his head, and he chops his head off.
I
killing Thanos.
I had
Whew.
seen theories that said the Avengers are going to, or like the remaining Avengers we have, are going to try something. It's going to fail, and the majority of the movie is going to be that Plan B we're going to watch. And so I could picture that coming. I did not possibly imagine that Thanos was like, well, I used the Infinity Stones for what I wanted to use them for, and I didn't want them around anymore, so I destroyed them.
Yeah, that's his like fail safe to just be like, well,
Yeah.
I saved the universe. Nothing else needs to be saved ever again. So we're just
Mhm.
gonna destroy these. I mean, he did have a good line. He says,
Yes.
after I did what I did, they would be useful for nothing except temptation. Which
Yes.
obviously that was the Avengers' plan of just like, we need these stones. Like
Yeah.
we need to fix things. And I mean, again, Thanos was right in that situation, which is just like, ugh, yeah,
Yep.
you have a point there.
Yeah, he's so sensible.
Um, but yeah, they kill him right then and there, and then they're like, well, shit, now what do we do?
Mhm.
And they go back to Earth and they kind of try to move on, and they just don't know what to do yet.
Yes.
Is the thing they haven't figured it out yet. Um, so 5 years later,
I knew there was gonna be a time jump, and you could tell a lot of this honestly by the way Natasha's hair changes. It's like if you watch the trailers, her hair is different, so there's
yeah,
vastly different. So there's some kind of time gap going on. I did not imagine it was gonna be 5 whole years.
yeah, I thought there was gonna be some kind of time gap too. I didn't know how big it was gonna be, but five
No.
years passed. Let's see. Avengers return to Earth, trying to deal with the aftermath. Oh, let's see where my notes go. Hawkeye goes on a murder spree. Black
Yep.
Widow is trying to find him. Cap
Mhm.
runs a support group, and Thor hides away in New Asgard, getting fat and playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek.
I I like that. I love that
Can
he
we?
had
Can we?
enough of the valiant hero in him that he's like, I'm gonna go to Norway, as my father recommended. I'm gonna form New Asgard, and it's gonna be this home for all the remnants of my people. And he got that far, and that was all the valiancy he had left in him. And
He
he's like, I'm
didn't know what to do with
exhausted.
himself. Yeah.
I'm at my wits' end. I'm just gonna be, a beer bum.
And I love it. I
It's
love the
great.
fact that he gets
Mhm.
overweight and he has this gigantic beer belly and he stays that way the entire movie.
I
I
love
love
it
it.
too.
And his
I
shirt
was
is off most of the time and
Yes!
it's fantastic.
I was expecting there to be some like magic in a way, or he's like,
Yes.
I'm gonna train to get back in shape.
The
No.
scene later
He's
on,
the
which I'm
same.
sure we'll get to, when they're
Yes.
after Thanos destroys the Avengers complex, and they're sitting there just like, is he moving? And it's like, no, he's just sitting there. When he like did his lightning to get his stuff, I thought he was going to be like magically back to this thing,
Oh,
but
it's
no.
like a Sailor Moon
Yeah,
transformation.
just spin, but no, he stays fat for the whole time, and it's hilarious, and I love it,
Yeah.
and it's oddly like more Viking like, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Like he's just this big bulging man, and it's
Mhm.
like I think it's fantastic.
I also loved his hair braids at the end of the
Yes.
movie. The way his hair and beard get styled is great. That was
Yeah.
a nice touch. He's
Yeah.
got so many good looks.
It's so funny. Dad bod Thor.
Yes. I want to talk about Natasha,
Yes.
because there's an Easter egg in that scene that I spotted immediately, and I haven't seen anybody else mention it, which is that when she's in like Avengers HQ, she's on the video phones just eating her PB&J, you can see like on one of the chairs in this office are ballet shoes.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw ballet as part of the flashbacks to the Red Room in Age of Ultron. And I like that the implication is just that she's so at her wit's end, and she's been trained to be this soldier, this assassin, and there's like she doesn't know what to do anymore.
She's
She's not
trying to
able
go
to
back
live
to
that
her
kind of
roots.
Yeah,
Just
and
like,
like
what do I need to do? Let's start from square one.
yeah, or like she's not able to go out there in the field anymore because somebody has to be the desk person and it falls to her now because she's the only person who will keep everything together.
Yeah,
And she needs some sort of physical outlet and she's like, "Okay, back to ballet."
yeah,
It's such a little thing and I feel like it tells you a lot about her character and I've always liked her, but this is by far my favorite Black Widow movie.
yeah. It's good. Yeah, I really liked it. It's just it's also fantastic, I think, to see the relationship that she has with Hawkeye, because
Yes.
it's not a romantic
No.
relationship, but it is in one sense. There is this really strong love between them, but it's very platonic at the
Yes.
same time.
Yeah, I love that too. I love that this series knows when a platonic relationship does not need to be escalated to make it powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic
Mhm.
example because you can see it in War Machine's eyes when we find out that he's the one that's kind of on his tail
Yeah.
looking for Hawkeye, who's now on this murder spree. He's become Ronin, even though they didn't really say his name as Ronin, but it's I guess implied in the name Ronin, a swordsman without a master. He feels like
Yeah.
he there's no point now, so he's
Mhm.
just going and killing bad guys. And yeah, and he War Machine looks at Natasha and he's like, "Do you really want me to find him when
Yeah.
he's acting like this? Like this isn't gonna be easy for you." And she just like, yeah, this is what I need. Like, we need to get
Yeah.
him back. Like, he's almost the one that helps keep her stable, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Which is nice. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, then the other character that we see 5 years down the road is Tony Stark, who has a
Yeah.
kid, little Morgan.
What did I tell you last year, Kyle?
I think you did mention something that he's gonna get married, he's gonna have a kid, blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I wasn't expecting the kid.
I I wasn't expecting the kid at this stage until I saw the 5 years later, and I'm like, "Well, that's kid making time. What else are you gonna do?"
Well, yeah, you have to repopulate the Earth somehow. You know, half of us are gone. We all better get to work.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and her name is Morgan. She's
Mhm.
really cute, and she loves Tony 3000.
3,000. So precious.
And he has the most like dad Tony Stark moment when he walks out and he's like, "So Pepper, I don't know if you know this, but she loves me 3,000. So step your game up."
Yeah,
Like,
I think you only love me like 700.
yeah. So that was fantastic. Um, but the ball doesn't really get rolling. Like, Plan B doesn't really take effect
No.
until we find out what's happening with Ant-Man.
Yeah, it's
And the
not
day was saved by a
by
rat.
some poor innocent
By a
rat.
random rat that just happened to step on the button to release Ant-Man from the quantum realm where he's been trapped for the past 5 years.
But to him, it only feels like 5 hours.
Yeah, that's what
Classic time
he
travel hijinks.
he mentioned, which he didn't realize it at first, but that is eventually how we get the time travel idea, where he's just like,
Mhm.
hey, time works differently in this realm. Would it
Yeah.
be possible to go in the quantum realm now and come out then? Like, what if we do it that way? And they're like, well, we're gonna need Tony to do that. And he at first says no, but then
Mhm.
his ego won't let that happen. So he eventually solves it, and that's
No, he
when
says no because he's like, "I have become a husband and a father. I spent all
yeah,
my life trying to protect people, putting the well, first he spent all that time putting himself first, and then he put the world first. And he's like, both of those ended in disaster. I want to stay exactly where I am now. Like I owe it to Pepper and to Morgan to not get in a danger anymore.
It's yeah, and other words, it's like, hey, looking after myself didn't work out the best. Looking after the world didn't work out the best. But if I had to pick between the two, knowing they both don't work out, I'm gonna pick me and my family.
Yes,
like that, and that's what he does. But it gnaws at him in the back of his mind because he's already had such a journey to become a better person and to learn to care about other people. That he can't let it go, because there's also, he knows that Doctor Strange said there was one outcome, and he's still, I'm sure it's still just bothering the hell out of him. Just like, what the hell was it?
And
did we miss it?
Yes.
Have we already lost it? Has it happened yet? And so he solves it.
He owes all those people he lost, about as much as he owes Tony, as much as he owes himself, as much as he owes Pepper and Morgan. He thinks about Peter.
Yeah.
Like the first thing he says when Carol brings him back to Earth, he gets off the plane and he says, "I lost the kid."
Yeah.
Oh,
so sad.
He's got a picture of him and Peter like framed in his kitchen. It's heartbreaking.
It really is.
That is like the gut punch out of all of these relationships in this franchise. It's that one. It's Tony and Peter that breaks you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's him seeing that picture of Peter that really is like, all right, I at least owe it to him to try, and he eventually does some science mumbo jumbo with the Mobius strip, and boom, time travel is possible. And so he goes to Avengers Complex and is like, I did it, I'm the smartest man again. Because smart Hulk,
Professor Hulk.
Professor Hulk is who they went to next after Tony Stark turned him down. And he's a scientist, but he's not that kind of scientist. And so he's trying his damnedest, and he's just not. He is not making time travel work.
I made Scott a kid. I made him an old man. I made him a baby.
Yeah.
I eventually made real Scott again.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's when I think Act 2 of this film starts.
Yep.
Of like, okay, Act 2 is
you get him
time
in the
heist.
Quantum suits. Yes. I love that it gives a reason. Not that it wasn't just like a fun, cool story, but it's like the Ant-Man movies are heists for this.
Yeah, exactly. I one more thing about Tony Stark. Pepper has a really good line, which comes back later on in the film, and she knows that he won't rest until he solves this whole thing and he fixes this thing, because that's the one thing she can't get him to stop. So she knows, that he won't rest. Time heist begins. They start formulating the plan. I have to say, one of the funniest things is seeing Ant-Man interact with the rest of the Avengers, because he's not been a part of any of this.
No.
He knows nothing. And so when
he showed up for Civil War, but like he was just there for what? 3 or 4 hours and didn't really get
he didn't really understand what was happening. He just knows he needed to punch things. And here he is.
Showed up and put him in a van.
And here he is for this. And when drunk dad bod Thor gets up there and he's like, and then the Dark Elves, ooh, everyone in the room is just like, oh my God, this is awful. What are we gonna do? Ant-Man is sitting there like, and then what? Dark Elves? There's aliens? What? Tell me more. Like, he's just like this happy little kid in story time.
It's exactly what Rocket says about him. He's the puppy of the team.
Yes, he really is. And that's one of the funniest moments in the film to me, when he's just like, dark elves, ooh, and he's just like, yeah, and tell me more.
Yeah. And I did like them kind of putting a hat on the fact that Thor 2 The Dark World is the MCU movie people remember the least. I don't know a dang thing about it.
Yeah,
I have
it
not seen
was
it
not
since
very
it was in
good.
theaters.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of how the time heist is starting to get set up. Basically, they split into a bunch of teams and go into the past to collect the stones.
Okay, and this is where they're going. They have to get the reality stone out of Asgard. That's when they go back to Thor 2 The Dark World. 3
Mm-hmm.
stones are in New York City in 2012. You've got the Tesseract, which is the space stone. You've got the Time Stone, who's over there with the Ancient One. It was neat to see her
Mm-hmm.
again. And they're also
Sanctum
getting
Sanctorum,
the Mind.
Tesseract.
Yeah, I said the Tesseract, the Mind Stone, right?
Yeah, there's the Tesseract, Loki's staff, and the Time Stone.
Yeah, and then they
Eye of
send,
Agamotto.
and then they split the team again to go into space. You go to
Vormir.
yeah, Vormir for the Soul Stone, and then
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of this planet. It
I
starts
don't
with an
remember
M.
that one.
It's the one from the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy where Peter goes and gets like the Power Stone.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. That's the one thing in my notes that I'm just like, I don't remember where they went.
It's like Morbus or something like that. It's some space word. I love Guardians, but I don't remember every planet's name.
Yeah. So the first one I wanted to talk about was Hulk.
Okay.
Because yeah, time travel is often very muddy. A lot of people tune out or get really confused.
Yeah.
And I
If
think
you're a big time travel
I
person.
love it. I think this does a very good job at keeping it very, very simple.
Yes.
There are things that are still a little bit confusing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's one of those things that will be addressed down the road, maybe in later movies. Who knows?
The big rule that you need to keep in mind that I'm still wrapping my head around and like making sure I remember is that you cannot change your own past. Everything you go back in the past and do creates a branch timeline.
Mm-hmm.
This is how, at the end of the movie, current
Well,
Nebula.
it was specifically taking the stones out will create a new timeline. It was basically the whatever happened is the rule. There, according to the Ancient One, from everything she told us, there seems to only be one timeline, and she depicted it basically as this straight line flowing in one direction. And the time stones are there to kind of ensure it stays this one thing. If you remove the time stones, or not the time stones, the infinity stones, if you remove them, then it causes fractures in that time stream. So the plan is for the Avengers to go back in time and steal all of the infinity stones before Thanos ever gets them, go back to the present, use them, and then return the stones before Thanos ever found them, so that still what happened. Thanos still does the snap. Thanos still gets his head chopped off, all of that stuff.
Yeah, they return them to the instant they were taken, pretty much.
Exactly.
So the main timeline, the one that the Ancient One is so concerned about, that never breaks.
Exactly.
That stays intact. It doesn't it makes alternate branch timelines, but the main one like doesn't loop, nothing breaks it.
Yeah. And when they return the time stones, all of those fractured timelines get basically poofed out of existence. Again, is what I understood that thing to be. And I think that's how it makes the most sense.
Yeah, this I had a little trouble wrapping my head around.
That was
like at the end of the movie.
according to the illustration that the Ancient One
Yes.
was like making with her magic there, when they
Mm.
replaced that time stone, that black stream that like flew off of the
Yeah.
orange one, it disappeared. Is the
Mm.
thing. So that's why I'm assuming, hey, once they return the time stones as if nothing ever happened, then it is exactly that, as nothing ever happened.
Hmm.
So the main timeline is still the only timeline, and that's it.
You get memories of things, but those existences since cease to be real, sort of.
Basically.
It's this makes sense. I just know for my own brain, which is not calibrated to think about time travel this hard, I feel like it will take me another 10 days to be like, I get it. I
Yeah.
100% understand every bit.
So we'll return to that in
Yes.
just a sec. But I thought that was a neat scene just to
Yeah.
see Smart Hulk interact with the Ancient
They were a
One.
neat pair, yeah.
Yeah, that was one that I wasn't expecting to see at all.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was like, I actually really like this. I like seeing Hulk, this man of science who's been to alien worlds and do all that stuff, interact with this wizard basically, and
Yep.
them discussing like how time travel works. I was like, I really enjoy this. I like it a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, so then the other one, let's go to Vormir next, because I think that's the
Ah.
next big one. Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Okay. All right. Let's So we had the idea going into this that we were going to lose Iron Man, Thor, Captain America because we knew
At
like on
least.
a Yes, yes. Because, those actors' contracts are ending. We've known this for a while. The
Mm-hmm.
trailers focused on those characters. It made it seem like it was really going to be the swan song for those characters.
Right.
I did not think I figured those three we would lose them and that would be enough. That's heavy enough. You wouldn't need to kill anybody else. So this really
This hit
took
you
me
hard?
by surprise. Yes. I had no idea this was going to happen, but it makes so much sense and it's so true to the characters.
Yeah. I mean, what we mentioned, the relationship between Hawkeye and Black Widow, and just how connected they were. And here they are realizing how Gamora died and being like, okay, if this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do. But then instead of them wanting to kill each other, they're fighting for like killing themselves. It's like, hey, I'll
Yes.
sacrifice myself so that you can take this back, and all. And they have this big fight of just like who's gonna get to
And
kill themselves.
love that. I love that it's not just like one punch or one trip or
They go back and
one
forth.
shove or one dodge. It is an entire fight back and forth over and over again because each of them is so hard set on, no, you live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah, and it's an interesting pairing too, because Hawkeye in the comics did start off as a bad guy.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily see that or know that in the movies, but he did have his recent run as Ronin, where he's just murdering all these people. They're bad guys, but
Yes.
still,
He's
it's
not just civilians.
it's not
it
it's
is
not
like
just random
Yakuza. Yeah.
people, but it's still, it's just like you can't go off and do something like that. You're taking it too far.
Mhm.
And so he thinks he's bad, but we also have the history of Black Widow thinking she's a monster for the things that she's done. So they each think they're both terrible people. And it's like, hey, I'm the one that's done bad things in my life. You like, I'll sacrifice myself so you can live on. Like, hey, you have a family you can save. I don't. There's all of this back and forth stuff. And it's a fantastic scene, and it's Black Widow's demise, and it's one that they don't take back. It's not they're one of the other kind of rules is that they're only bringing back the people that were killed by the snap.
Yes.
by Thanos' snap. So
They
anything they do to get that happen, they died in service of making it happen.
mm.
That is a thing. We're not gonna bring you back, stuff like that. So she jumps off, and eventually she's dead. And
Oh,
Hawkeye wakes up in the water with the stone.
it's rough. It makes so much sense though. Like you think about one of her biggest moments in Avengers is I've got red in my ledger. I need to wipe it out. She thinks about these scales of balancing things, of trying to put as much out in the world as the
Mm-hmm.
world has given you. Hawkeye saved her life. Didn't just like physically save her from dying. He saved her view of herself, her
Yeah.
entire confidence, her entire view of herself as a person was on rocky ground, and he reached out a hand and he says, "No, I believe you're a good person."
Yeah.
And that was irrevocable for her. She's very strong on her own, but she needs somebody else to believe in her to make it feel real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he gave her. And she's like, I owe you my life. So here I go.
Yeah. So that is a big sad moment. It does give us a little more hints as to what the Black Widow movie
Yes,
will be.
because Red Skull, the same thing he did to Thanos. When Thanos came to the planet, he's like, "Oh, Thanos, son of Mr. Thanos' dad, sir." And these two show up, and it's like Hawkeye, son of Edith, and Natasha, daughter of Ivan. She's like, "I didn't know my dad's name."
Yeah.
Which is a big line.
Yeah, which is an interesting revelation for her. We might get to see some of that explored. I'm assuming the Black Widow movie is going to be some kind of spy espionage origin story. Maybe how she met Nick Fury, or maybe how she defected from Russia to the United States, something like that. So I'm assuming this movie, I mean, I guess it has to now, will take place in the past. But we don't know for sure.
No. Yeah, I want to talk more about these non-snap deaths, but we can save that for the end.
Yeah. So after that stone, let's see what's next. Hawkeye and Black Widow travel to Vormir. Thor and Rocket.
Oh,
let's talk about them going to Asgard.
I love that they are still, like, 5 years later, still really good friends after that mission they went on in Infinity War. I like that was like a true lasting bond between the two of them.
And they weren't even together that whole time, because Rocket wasn't there when Thor went on his bender and put on all that weight.
No, they hung out for like 2 days once 5 years ago, and they step right back into it when they meet again. It's really nice.
Yeah. And they make a fantastic team. We'll talk more about that down the road here. But yeah, this is an interesting one, because Thor is still doesn't know what to do with himself.
No, he's so lost.
And he eventually goes and doesn't really seek counsel, but is tailing his mother, and then his mother is like, "Boo, I scared you, I found you, haha."
Oh.
And yeah, so he gets some wisdom from his mom, who I for some reason, I don't know why I forgot this, but yeah, she's totally a witch. That's Freya. Like, she is the witch in North. In Norse mythology and stuff like that. And yeah, like it's neat to see. She's like, well, yeah, duh, I knew you were here. I knew you were up to something, and she gives him a pep talk.
I loved this scene because Thor is still, he's still hung up on Jane. He's been hung up on Jane since Jane left. It's not very serious, but it's kind of like a background thing that isn't really talked about, but that he's still kind of processing.
Which I'm really surprised they even showed her in this movie, because from what I remember, she exited those films because it just wasn't working out with them. I think she wanted more money or something. I don't
I
know,
don't know
but
exactly what it was, or like they had a
I,
director they were going to use and
I
then
kind of
didn't, and she was
remember
upset about that.
it ending on bad terms. So
Uh,
to
it's
see her in this, I was like, oh wow, good for them. Like to
yeah,
make
that's
that
nice to see
happen.
they patched things up. Yeah, it was nice to see her again.
Sure, it was all
Oh,
about the money.
uh, you would expect him to go have this moment with Jane, but I love that when he sees his mom is all he can think about. I
Yeah,
love this is a series full of like boys who love their moms. Like you think about this, like Peter Quill thinking about his mom is one of my favorite parts of the Guardians franchise, which is my favorite of these franchises. I love that like he sees her and he's like, this is the day she dies.
yeah.
I like he has to like he knows Jane. Well, no, Jane got snapped, but like he like Frigga died like that day and he never got to have a goodbye with her. He probably had some sort of goodbye with Jane, even if it is like her dumping him or whatever. He has to go say goodbye to his mom and he's so
Hmm.
lost and he just wants like he wants that motherly advice again.
Yeah,
And she's there and she gives it to him. And I read like she has more lines in this movie than she did in the first two Thor movies combined,
that's ridiculous, but
which
good.
is I loved that moment with her. It was
Hmm.
so sweet.
Yeah.
I also
And
like that it's not just Thor, it's all of Asgardians that think Rocket is a rabbit.
yeah. uh, and so after the pep talk, he kind of gets back in the spirit, and he finally calls Mjolnir, and he's like, "I'm still worthy. I still got it," and he's so happy.
So he can
And
like
then
two fist his weapons later on briefly. That was
he
cool.
takes the past Mjolnir to the future, which is kind of funny. I really wanted to see like some kind of scene or a short where Thor has a bad day. Thor loses his hammer. Like, what happens to the Thor of that film when he
Yes.
just like, God damn it, where did I put my hammer?
I want this to be one of those like Marvel what
What
ifs
if
on
things?
Disney Plus. Just like the one day he couldn't find his hammer. He's like, I
Yeah.
keep calling it. I don't know why it's taking so long.
Which in the end, which we'll get to, that gets reset, so he gets
Yeah.
the hammer back. But yeah, I when that happened at first, I was like, wait, that's the old Mjolnir. He can't just take that. What happened to the? Oh, it broke. That's right. He doesn't have that, but he has his other one. So he can't take that. Like, that's not good. You're messing with the past now.
But he's not messing with his past. See, I had to keep reminding myself of this.
I mean, he
So
kind of
that I
is,
wouldn't just get lost. Yeah.
because he doesn't lose that hammer until Thor 3. So if
He's messing with that Thor. He's not messing
right,
with himself. Yep.
right, yeah,
So like I was so tripped up at the end when current Nebula shoots past Nebula. Cause I'm like, why don't you like crumble apart now? And I'm like, no,
it's
no,
not
she
Back
messed
to the
with
Future.
other Nebula, not herself.
Yeah. So yeah, so they go back to Earth. They do that thing. I think it's a fantastic scene because Rocket's just getting chased by all of the Asgardians. It's fantastic. Let's see. Let's go to
We go back to New York.
New
So we have to
York.
hit New York and
Iron Man and Ant-Man. Let's talk about them first.
and Steve's around there too.
He's around there, yeah, but
They're like
they
very close
kind of
together.
split off, yeah. So Iron Man and Ant-Man are sitting there watching the scene from Avengers 1 when they're in Avengers Tower at the end of the movie and they just beat Loki, and Hawkeye is there with his bow like right in his face and stuff like that. And he's like, I'll have that drink now.
I loved seeing everything from another angle. I loved seeing
That's
all
really
the like
neat, yeah.
I love seeing the logistic things that like the first movie didn't show. Like, well, then all of these shield people came in and they took this item and this is why Loki's under locks and this is what they're going to do. Like
Agent Sitwell was there, Rumlow was
it's
there, all of that, yeah.
it's very exciting, boring stuff. The bureaucracy. Let's see them all come in and handle things.
Yeah, so their plan is to get the Tesseract by sending Ant-Man into Iron Man's suit, and at the right moment, like disconnecting his heart thing. I don't
Mhm.
remember what he calls it. Excuse me. And hoping that he drops the case so that the present day Tony Stark can pick it up and leave. That's the
Mhm.
plan. Um,
Yes.
and that ends up going really wrong.
Mhm.
So it starts to work out. Present day Tony picks it up, but he walks towards the stairs, which is the stairs that they made Hulk go down because he can't fit in the
He
elevator and the
can't
weight
fit in the
limit.
elevator.
And he
So
just,
they
too many stairs, God. And he's so pissed off. And he opens that bottom door and it just smashes Tony Stark and it knocks the Tesseract right in front of Loki.
and he's just like yoink, and
Yeah,
he just vanishes.
disappears. Which I will bring that back up at the end of this
Yes.
episode. But that causes a problem for them. Meanwhile, we have Captain America trying to get Loki's staff, which is another one of the stones there. And oh, you just got super small on the screen. You're in the corner now. But yeah, so
Okay,
we.
but first, no.
Oh, you're getting
Well, because
robot
I'm
extra
about to
small
talk about
now.
Ant-Man. That's why. No,
Okay,
let me.
go for it.
Uh, you got real robot-y too. Okay, but what I was going to say, I got small because I have to set this up by saying earlier when it's like little Ant-Man on Tony's shoulders, and they're still like radio calming over to Steve, and they're looking at the past Avengers and thinking. And Scott comments, "Gosh,
Tony
dang,
mentions,
look at
"Hey, that
that."
that that old suit doesn't do anything for your ass, Cap." And then that's when Ant-Man makes his line.
Sarcastically, is that's glorious. That's the ass of America.
That's America's ass. Which is fantastic.
So Steve, so Steve has to go after the Tesseract, and he does this by
Loki's
getting into
staff.
the elevator. Loki staff. Yes, yes, yes. I forget. Those are separate things. Those are separate props. He didn't mash both of his two big props up into one. He's not Thor. He's not double handing this. So he gets into the elevator with these secret Hydra guys, exactly like in Winter Soldier. And
I
he tries
thought
to
they were
convince.
gonna redo that fight scene.
I like what he does instead to get out of it. Like he's trying to take the staff and telling them, like, oh no, like the director just called me and I'm supposed to have the staff. And the guy's like, really? I don't
We
think
can't
so.
let you do that, Cap.
Cap just leans in and says, Hail Hydra. It's
Yeah.
cool. I'm on
And
your
then
side.
he
I know
just
what this is
walks
about.
out with the staff.
I I liked that he figured that he's like, no, I've seen what this can do. I can do this to get out of the situation. And so he walks out and he runs into 2012 himself. And you have a Steve fighting a Steve.
Yeah, Cap versus Cap. So that Captain America saying "Hail Hydra" is a
Yes.
callback to the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Was actually very controversial in the comics. A lot of people thought it was done very, very poorly because it basically came out that Captain America was a Hydra agent all along.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And of course, like, oh no, it's not time travel and stuff like that. Blah, blah, blah. And it ended up just, it all got undone and stuff like that. And it was just like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
But this handles that in a very, very different way.
Yeah. I
And
like
it
that he just
ends up
uses it
being
as a ploy.
it's very obvious, like, hey, I know what's happening here. If I
Yes.
say "Hail Hydra," you'll hand me
He's
that thing and I can
"Oh,
walk
I
away
figured out the
scot-free.
secret magic word." Yeah, I like it that it's that angle on this thing.
Yeah.
And he has to fight himself. And in 2012, Cap is like, I could do this all day. And current Cap is like,
I know.
I know.
I know. Which is a great line.
Such a good reading of that line. And he finally knocks out 2012 Cap down on the ground and looks down at him and says, that is America's ass.
Yes.
I love that it took half the population of the world dying for Steve Rogers to feel like he can say curse words.
He's checking out his own ass.
I love it.
Like
All the best moments in this movie are Steve moments. It's not Steve's movie. I wouldn't say he's a show stealer or anything like that.
he's
But
one
you
half
make
of the heart and soul of the MCU.
yes. You make a bullet point of the best moments, and most of them are going to him.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was a fantastic scene and just a great line. That is America's ass. So good. So let's see. After that one, they have to then deal with Tony Stark and Ant-Man losing the Tesseract. So their idea is to go back even farther in the past and pick up the Tesseract from the training facility in New Jersey, where Peggy Carter is working, where Hank Pym is working, where Howard Stark is. They see all of that stuff.
Where Stan Lee drives by.
Yeah.
Tells them to be peaceful.
Yeah. So yeah, like that was fantastic. Stan Lee also got a big like Stan! Which was fantastic. But yeah, so they go back farther in the past, and Tony Stark has a run-in with his father. And it is the most awkward writing I have ever seen, and I think it fits. Like
I love it. I love that Tony has no idea what to do. And he did all of this like quantum mechanics, and yes, time travel can work, and all the stones are here, and we go here. And
he's just a wreck when when that. Yeah.
And
no idea what to do. He leaves the Tesseract behind. He's like, "Aren't you forgetting this?" You know. He has no idea what to do, and he's never really gotten to spend time with his father.
Sweet.
So it's fantastic.
And Maria Stark is still pregnant with Tony at this point, and Howard mentions this. Now he's really not sure what he's going to do. And he says, "No, I just worry, like, will I be able to spend enough time with him? Will I be a good father?" And it's that worry that was all Tony ever needed. Like, he can see, oh, you screwed up a lot, Dad, but your heart was in the right place. I can really see this now. You did really love me. You did really want to provide for me. You didn't know if you were going to be any good at this role either. And I have felt the same with my own daughter. And he just says, "No, I think you're going to do great." And it's, because it took that moment. It took the question for Tony to be able to give that answer.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And then at the end, he hugs his dad. He has this awkward hug, and he just goes, thanks for everything you've done for America.
Lots of good hugs in this movie. Quality hugging.
Yeah. So that's how they get the Tesseract, which, I'll come back to that later on. But we get to see Cap see Peggy. How she didn't notice him is beyond me, but sure.
He's looking at her through a window, but the room he's in has all the lights off, I guess.
But she's literally like a foot away. Yeah.
She's got to read, Kyle. She's got business to do. America's to save.
She has to found S.H.I.E.L.D. She has to make that stuff happen. Yeah, so that's it. That's an emotional scene where he gets to see her, but he can't talk to her. He can't say hi.
She's got the picture of Steve framed on her desk.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, some really big payoff moments with that. It was really good. So then they go back to the present day, back to the future.
No, you're skipping a big one, which is Rhodey and Nebula.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Go for it.
Okay, so they go back to, whatever its name was, that planet from the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, where Peter Quill is bopping around to come get your love. And we see him doing that. And then we see him from, like, Rhodey and Nebula's point of view, and he's just singing to no music.
Yeah. Yeah. He has his because he has his headphones in,
Yeah.
so they can't hear it.
So they knock him out, and they like Nebula has to reach into this force field with just her bare robot arm, and it corrodes and breaks, but she pulls the power stone out. Having this Nebula in such a close proximity to where old, like 2012, 2013, 14, whenever it is, Thanos and Gamora and Nebula is. The two Nebulas link up. They're on the same like
Yeah.
cloud system or whatever. And so what she is seeing and what she is telling Rhodey and everything current Nebula knows about the plan gets sent to past Nebula's brain. So Thanos can piece together what has happened.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. And I was
Oh,
just like, oh shit, it's past
yeah.
Thanos. He's gonna fuck him up
Oh.
somehow. This isn't gonna work. This is all gonna fail again.
Mhm.
Um,
It was it was very good to see Gamora again. I've
yeah,
mentioned
it was good.
countless times my soft spot for the Guardians, and it was even if she's back to her like stoic, ferocious, like warrior woman before she's like softened up a little bit before she's really the Gamora like we came to know and love. It was still good to see her again,
Yeah.
and still good to see that a return to that sister dynamic between
Mm-hmm.
her and Nebula because it's another like really strong part of this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, that's one of the big like, oh shit moments because we know Thanos now knows about the plan, and it is not a good thing.
Not good.
Not good at all. So yeah, so then they finally go back to the present day. That's when they learn that Black Widow didn't make it. But they have all of the stones.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hulk puts on the thing because they think he's the only one strong enough
Yeah.
to handle
They
it, to handle
they
the
build this
radiation.
like iron gauntlet, like it's like an Iron Man glove, but it's got the space for all the stones. It can expand to the size of a gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce is like, this is gonna put out a ton of like energy and radiation, but it's mostly gamma. So it's like I was made for this.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
everybody's like doesn't know what's gonna happen, so they all like put on their masks, get behind the shield. And like Rocket just has these little goggles to put on, so Thor stands in front of them
yeah,
because they're
he's like, get
buddies.
get behind me.
Behind me, Rabbit.
um, yeah, so I don't know why they didn't even just like leave the room. Like they were in the room when it happened. Like, what if it went bad and they all died?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We win
who
together,
knows?
we lose together.
Yeah. But yeah, so they do the snap and they bring everyone back who got snapped out by Thanos.
Not immediately. They do eventually. They don't know it has succeeded yet.
Well, they figure
Oh,
it
wait,
kind of has
right, yes, no, right.
because
Yes, you're right. I
Ant-Man walks
forgot.
out and he's like, "Hey, there's a lot of birds out here. I think it worked." And then
This
Hawkeye
is
gets a
where
call from his wife.
Okay, so
All of
you
that
do see
stuff.
the people, but most of the people we know have not shown back up yet. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. We don't know where they are, what's happening, or stuff like that, but we know that it is, in fact, happening.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, but at that same time, unbeknownst to them, Gamora from the past has showed up and she has replaced the Gamora from the future, and she uses the
Nebula.
yeah.
Yeah, Nebula took like
Sorry.
past Nebula took like current Nebula's like head plate and like popped it on her head. Like now I blend right in.
They'll never know. But yeah, so she ends up going to the present, and Nebula is the one that brings past Thanos to the future using the quantum time machine thing
Hmm.
that they have there. How she knew how to work the time machine, I don't know.
She's very smart. She's mostly
Sure.
robot
I mean,
parts.
yeah, she is a machine interfacing with another machine, basically.
I also want want to take a second to when she's kind of explaining to Rhodey like how she got that way, how like after she would lose a battle with Gamora, like Thanos would continue to like mechanize her to make her better. She says, "I wasn't always like this," and Rhodey's like, "Yeah, I wasn't always like this either," referring to his robot legs.
Legs, yeah.
I love Rhodey in this movie. I love that he's so like snarky and blunt, but also like on your side. Absolutely. He will do whatever it takes, but he's kind of got an attitude about it, but it's well
That's
earned.
that's kind of who he is. Yeah.
Rhodey's great. I
Yeah.
just want to take a second and make sure everybody knows.
Rhodey is fantastic. Um yeah, and so Thanos immediately was like, fire the missiles. Destroys Avengers complex.
Yes.
Um
And I love that in a movie full of like time travel and like crazy time space, like life and death shenanigans, something as simple as the building is destroyed gets to be as big of an obstacle as it is. Like, Rocket is like trapped under a beam, and it's one of the most harrowing parts of the film because he sounds so hurt and so fragile. It's like, oh,
yeah.
you're just like my
You're
old
you're
buddy, and
just
you
this
could
small
fit in
little
my
fuzzy
arms.
thing.
Yeah, that hurt me. I didn't like hearing Rocket get hurt.
Um, yeah, so thankfully no one died in that, but
Yes.
here is Thanos now on present day, and he's come to fuck some shit up.
Yeah.
And that's when we get that scene where Thor is just kind of standing on top of the rubble, looking down at Thanos, who's just sitting there waiting. And Tony and Steve come up and they're like, "What is he doing?" He's like, "He's just sitting there." Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it's this is the moment the third act starts,
Yeah.
and boy does it pick up in like almost
Oh,
immediately. Because then more of the Chitauri are there. There's all the alien ships coming down to Earth. They are invading in full force.
yes.
And war has begun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like conditions are so bad, like there's so much like smoke and fire and dust. It is like blocked out the sun, and it's so like dirty and murky. It looks like a battleground
Yeah,
for reals, like before any actual battling starts.
yeah.
Ugh.
So it really sets the scene, but I think as like dark as it is there, it's beautiful.
It
There's
is.
purples and reds and
Ugh.
blacks and all these different lights, and you see Thor's lightning, and it's this bright blue, and it just the
Yeah,
colors are amazing.
I like that it's slightly like murky outside so that things like, Doctor
The
Strange's orange
glow.
magic rings and the lightning and like Valkyrie on her horse like can shine that much
Yeah.
brighter.
So we haven't gotten to those just
Mhm.
yet, but
Yes.
when those things do happen, yeah, the colors are
Oh,
fantastic and beautiful. It looks like a painting. But yeah, so the big three, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, start
mhm,
fighting Thanos, and they're getting their butts whooped. They're not doing so hot.
mhm.
I mean, they're putting up a fight, but
Yeah.
it's still they're not getting anywhere. And let's see. After Thanos kind of readily kicks their asses, he's almost. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, it gets their butts kicked. Eventually, Thanos is like, "Hey, I brought an army, so it's not just about defeating me. Like,
We have a Hulk.
yeah." There's this moment where Steve, his shield is broken. He's on
Yes.
his knees. He's the only one like left out on the battlefield. And he's done for. And you just see the like armies of Thanos behind Thanos walking up, and you're just like, oh shit, this is not good. And yeah, it's a scary scene, but
It
that's when we
is.
get the first or not the first, because we got Hawkeye's wife's phone call, but
Yes. Okay.
Falcon
Yes.
breaks radio silence.
Oh, on your left.
Yeah. And that's when we see the like Sorcerer Supreme
Yeah.
teleportation things open up, and Black Panther comes in, all the Wakandans come in, all the Sorcerer Supremes come in, Iron Man is there, Pepper is there, War Machine is there with a
she's got
new
a
suit.
rescue armor. Out comes like the whole Pym family, all the Guardians, Spider-Man,
All the Asgardians,
Yeah.
Valkyrie on her horse, on her Pegasus, like and it's such a good scene, because like I was expecting it to just be a smaller like Strike Force team style fight,
it is
and
everybody
this is
you have ever seen.
Yeah, this is Korg is there, Meek is there, everyone.
I think Kraglin is there, like all the Ravagers.
New Master
everybody-
69 is there. No, I'm kidding.
Everybody you have seen that is not dead from something non-snap related, they have all showed up.
Yeah, and it's such an emotional scene when they all just start showing up, and they're all like, "We're here, we're ready to fight. This is ours."
Wept with joy.
Our Earth.
I cried at a lot of things. Later,
I did too.
I would give you, oh boy. I give you an entire list of I need extra hands. I need to put a gauntlet on so that then I can count on the extra fingers. All the times I cried.
Yeah.
I wept with such joy at this moment. Just everybody bursting in.
Exactly.
Like, you, Thanos, you're powerful. All those Chitauri, you're powerful. But like, look how big Scott is.
One thing we forgot to mention is when Ant-Man at the start of the film, when he's figuring everything out, he learns that Cassie is still alive. He goes to see her, and she's big. That's the thing he says. She's so big.
That was incredible. Like, because he finds this memorial of people who were snapped away, and he's so
He
scared.
sees his name, but not hers.
Because they think he was snapped away, and he goes to find her. And I love that there wasn't any kind of like, "Well, is this really you, Dad? Is this a trick?" Or
he knew right away.
She's like, "Yes, that's my dad. He's back." It's incredible. It's such a strong moment. And I was watching that, and I'm like, to think, this is the same man we saw angrily try to put away a lunch tray in Wet Hot American Summer, and now he does this.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, that was an incredible scene, and here we are at the end, and everyone is coming in, and it just I think that was like I teared up at a bunch of different moments throughout the film, but this was the moment that I was just like tears of joy, like uncontrollably, just like, yes, this is amazing. This is everything I've ever wanted in like superhero comic book films. This is incredible. I was like, this is fucking history. Mm-hmm. This is movie making history. And yeah, and then the real war starts to begin. Then it's just full on action figures on action figures smashing into one another. And yeah, and we see more of Thor fighting Thanos, and Thor is still kind of getting pushed around a little bit, and it's looking like Thanos might overpower him, and that's when we get the big special moment of the film, the big like, oh shit, jump out of your seat, what the hell is happening? Captain America is wielding Mjolnir.
There was a lot of sporadic clapping in my theater, because I think nobody was really sure, like, are we all clapping now? It'd be like, no, okay, all right, I'm done. Everybody was on board.
Oh, shit.
Steve.
The second best line, I think, in this film is Thor at that moment. I knew it. Just like he has this face of like, hell yeah, I am fucking proud of you. Like, hell yeah, but also this like, god damn it. Like, fuck, he can also do it too.
I'll get the big one, you have the little one.
Yeah.
He hands him the little hammer, which is also I don't know, almost a nice nod to Men in Black. Like, you get the noisy crickets.
Yeah. But yeah, it's this expression of like immense pride and also just like jealousy of like, god damn it, I wanted to be the only one who could wield this thing besides Vision, and now there's another one.
What a roster of people who can like be the god of thunder. It's Thor, a polite robot man, and America's ass.
Yeah. Which yeah, that's what great payoff. What they earned that moment in that. It's fantastic. I have said fantastic a lot on this episode because that's what this movie is. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's as fantastic as anything could be, short of the actual, Storms, Reed, and Grimm.
So we see Valkyrie flying around on her horse, and it's beautiful.
And like everybody's
Amazing.
pulling out these like classic moves. Like you see Drax just like take a knife in each hand and just like pummel it.
We see Falcon stab some guy with his wings. That was amazing. We see Spider-Man instant kill, activate. I got this. I got this. I got this. I got this.
Okay,
I don't got this. I don't got this anymore.
And one of the first thing he does is he goes and he finds Tony and he's like, Tony, I don't know where we were. But then Doctor Strange, the wizard, was like, okay, guys, it's been 5 years. We have to get back to them. And I'm like, what? It's been 5 years? And he's just prattling on, trying to explain.
He's like, okay, kid, okay. And he just
Tony, the way Tony looks at him is a miracle. It just gives him the biggest hug.
It's such relief and joy and just like I've done the thing I set out to do, but god damn it, you're here now. I have to protect you.
Oh, sweet boy.
Yeah.
And in Infinity War, we had like the girl team moment where it's Scarlet Witch and Okoye and Black Widow fighting Proxima Midnight. The Black Order's all back too. They're here also. And then it's like, it's escalated. It's like we have every living female character in the series is right here.
The A-Force moment.
Powerhouses. Like there's Okoye and Shuri and Valkyrie and
there's
Wasp.
Hope and there's
Mantis. Who I love, but who is not a fighter. She does not really have a tactical purpose, and she just got her little fist.
Fist up, yeah. The girl with the antenna. Yeah, that moment was fantastic. I want an A-Force movie now, please. There's a mini series, and there was a short. It was supposed to be ongoing. Eventually got canceled because it didn't do so well. But there was a short mini series a couple years ago called A-Force, and it was an all-female Avengers team, and it was really good. And yeah, like seeing that on screen where Valkyrie is there, and yeah, it's like this is amazing.
And like outside of this scene, seeing Scarlet Witch have her one-on-one with Thanos was very satisfying.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know who you are. You will now. Yeah, great stuff. A whole bunch of fight scenes. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, they are trying to get the Infinity Stones as far away from Thanos as possible. Just run. It's like a football game. They're just running down the field. But eventually Thanos gets them. He gets his hands on them, and it's just like, it's this like edge of your seat. Oh shit, not again. Like, don't let this end badly again, and
I do also want to, like, before we get to like the climax of things, just shout out the moment where past Nebula is trying to kill Gamora, and current Nebula's like, I am not letting you.
Yeah, there's that
was great too.
Star-Lord has his reunion with Gamora, and she's like, he knows her, but she doesn't know him because that's the past Gamora. Heartbreaking, yes, but also hilarious when present day Nebula shows up, and Gamora's just like, that's the one. Him, like, And he has no idea what's
Yeah,
happening.
Nebula says it was him or a tree.
Yeah, it was him or a tree.
Oh.
So funny. It's
Mhm.
so like it's incredible the amount of
Yes.
comedy that they can infuse in moments like this, and it feels completely earned and not
These
out of place.
Yeah, this and Infinity War, and I think all of, like, Winter Soldier's got some funny moments, Civil War has some
Most of
funny
them do,
moments.
yeah.
These 2 especially, like, are so good at knowing when and how to dole out a little bit of comedy. I think they are toned very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um so yeah, I mean we get all these reunions, all these bittersweet moments, and like it's payoff after fan service after fan
Mhm.
service. Um yeah, it's amazing. But then we get to the climax,
Ah,
and Thanos has the Infinity Gauntlet again, and he manages to put it on, and it's looking like he's about to do the snap, but Iron Man is right there fighting him, and Thanos snaps, and nothing happens, and he's just like,
mm,
what? And then he looks at the thing, and he doesn't have the stones in that
they were
one.
straight nabbed from him, yep.
Mm-hmm. They were stolen by Tony Stark, who now has them in his suit because his suit is now nanobot, so he can basically just think it to like, hey, make it
Yeah,
now. So
yeah.
he would just like,
Form
hey,
a
make
hold
a
for this stone.
yeah. And so Tony Stark, Iron Man, has the
Mm,
stones,
mm, mm, mm.
and he
No, we
says
gotta
his
say the
line.
lines. No, we gotta say the lines. Okay, so at the beginning of the movie, when they go see Thanos in his garden, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, I destroyed the stones. There's nothing you can do. You can't reverse this. I am inevitable." And
Yeah.
just as he's about to snap again at the end, he says, "I am inevitable." And then you see Tony with all the stones, and he says, "I
Am
am
Iron Man.
Iron Man."
And then he does his snap. And yeah, and then Thanos' army evaporates and gets dusted. Thanos kind of watches it all happens, and then he sits down, and eventually
Like,
Thanos
well,
evaporates.
it's fairly beaten.
Yeah, I do have to say that there was a good line, and I think it's right before this too. It might even be after he does the snap and before he dies. I forget exactly where, but Thanos has this idea where it's the moment he's realized he's lost,
Mhm.
basically, and he goes something along the lines of like, yeah, I see now what I should have done. I
Yep.
should have killed all of you as well. Just make it so you guys also died, because you guys couldn't let this happen.
No.
You guys came back, and he realizes he's defeated, and he just has this look on his face where he's thinking about it, of like, I could have done this, I could have done X, Y, and Z, like all. He just, you can see it like rotating in his head, and he's just he's tossing it around. He goes, "That's how I lost."
Mhm.
Well, shit, you know.
Well,
And then, poof, he gets
bye-bye.
dusted. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. To do a snap, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of power out of you. Thanos almost got killed doing it. Hulk almost got killed doing it, but he could handle the gamma radiation.
Tony's just a
Tony's
man.
just a human, so that snap basically killed him right then and there. Thankfully, there's enough time for Peter to get to him, for Pepper to get to him, for Rhodey to get to
Yes.
him.
I
It's neat how this film will gave us a bunch of combinations of characters that we never knew we wanted to see, but then
Yeah.
also kind of in the big important moments, that like everyone's more nuclear family is there.
Yes. And I
At
love that him and Tony and Steve had their reconciliation earlier
yeah,
so that this final moment could really focus on, his brother, his wife, and his son, more or less.
yeah, yeah.
Ah.
And yeah, we get the moment between him and Peter,
Oh.
which is real emotional. But then the one that really hits is when Pepper is there and she realizes what's happening and she just says, "You can rest now."
Oh, it's 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 such a return to form for Pepper. You think about her origin, she was his assistant. She was supposed to take care of everything for him. Like, no, Mr. Stark, I've got it. I planned it. Go take a break. And that's it, kind of comes full circle in this way
Mhm.
that she has always been there for him to the death. She's like, no, Tony, we did it. It's okay. I've got you. You can
But
rest.
it's also the callback to the line at the
Yes.
start of the film
Yes.
where she's like, "You're not going to be able to rest until
No,
you
like
fix this,"
she
and he fixed it.
understands him so much. Like there's not really any regret there. She's like,
Mhm.
you did what you had to do because you're Tony Stark, and I could never make you into anybody else.
Yeah. Um. That was another tear jerking moment. But I'm. It's incredible how they could set up all of those moments of like, hey, here's the nuclear family, here's the, or how to speak, right?
Mm,
Here's Rhodey right there, here's
yeah.
Pepper right there, here's Peter Parker right there,
Oh,
and yeah, it just it's sad, and Tony Stark, his heart
yeah.
goes off and his arm falls down, and that's it. That's the end of Tony Stark, Iron
Yeah.
Man.
R.I.P.
Um, and then I think it immediately picks up with his funeral, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's in this video, this like hologram. He would never record a simple video. He's Tony
Yeah.
Stark. He recorded a hologram before he died.
Yep. But he did that. He did that, which is kind of his,
Mm.
hey, if you're watching this, then I didn't make it out
Yeah, and he records it
moment.
like the night before they, go into the quantum realm time traveling.
Hmm. And it's mostly addressed to his daughter, though he is
Mm.
kind of talking for everyone, or
Hmm.
to everyone who's in the room there. Happy is right there. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's like it's a sad moment, but I think it's also a really happy
Yeah.
one too, where he had his redemption arc.
Yeah, he got to rest. He was a man always in search of something. He and it was ultimately trying to redeem himself to himself. Like the second he realizes, "Oh, I have to stop being this like self-obsessed jerk. I have to help other people." That's all he has. He
Yeah,
threw himself into it. And finally it's like I have done it.
yeah,
I have done all I could. I have done enough. Bye, folks.
yeah.
The funeral is gorgeous. They put like they give him they put this bouquet of flowers with the proof that Tony Stark has a heart
Hmm.
keepsake in the middle of it, and they put it out in the lake out back of his farm and send these flowers away, and you see everybody there,
All
and
the
there's this
usual
lovely
suspects.
slow pan across all of the, like it's everybody. There's all of the Avengers. There's
We see
Clint's
Nick Fury for the first
yeah,
time in the film. Yeah.
yeah, he's hanging out back there. He's like the at the very back of it. There's everybody. There's Clint and his family. There's T'Challa and Shuri, and the Queen is there. All
Hmm.
of these after this whole movie ended, I did not know where to start. But I turned to my friend and I said, that had to be a serious occasion because Drax wore a shirt."
I didn't even notice that.
She didn't either. I'm like, oh, he has very sensitive nipples. He's discussed this. Like it has to mean something for Drax to
I
put
have
on a shirt.
sensitive nipples.
Just all of these families. The kid from Iron Man 3 was
Yeah, which
there.
I didn't recognize him at
It
first.
took me
Yeah,
a couple minutes to figure it out. And it's like in the middle of the next scene that I'm like,
I I
that's
I
the kid
almost
from
wouldn't
Iron Man 3.
I almost wouldn't have known it. The guy who was sitting next to me said, I think that's the guy for the kid from Iron Man 3. And then I went and looked it up
Mhm.
afterwards. And yeah, that was him.
What a
Um,
great callback. Apparently, I did watch a video on this. Apparently, there's like a character from the Incredible Hulk in there too. Like it's so many people.
Incredible
They
Hulk.
it's like some
Would it be
general or
oh,
somebody.
Thunderbolt Ross?
Yes, that guy.
General Ross. Yeah, he was also
Yeah.
in Civil War. He was the one that was like, "Hey, here's the Sokovia Accords."
Oh, I forgot
Um,
that was him.
yeah, that's General Ross. I didn't notice him there, but yeah, good.
Yeah, everybody's there.
Everybody's. Um, yeah, that's a really touching scene. I think it was. I'm I kind of like how small it was.
Yes.
That being said, I mean, of course, we're saying everyone is there, but like it was only like a
Yes.
family affair. It was the Avengers who were there. It was
Yes.
the important
Yeah,
higher
it's
up
not like,
people
you
that
know.
needed to be there. You know.
Exactly. It's not just like, here's our neighbors. Here's, some of the board members of Stark Industries.
Hmm.
It's, none of Tony's other non-superhero friends.
Yeah. Like I'm even thinking back to this is in the comics, in the Ultimate comics,
Mhm.
when Peter Parker dies and Miles Morales is first like coming up, and it news gets out, hey, this kid Peter Parker, who was in high school, was Spider-Man this whole time. And instead of it just being like a small family thing, like all of New York shows up.
Oh.
Like all of the Avengers are there, all of that stuff. It's huge. But in comparison, this is just this tiny like family get together. And I kind of really like that. Like I don't think that would have worked for Captain America if he had died in that manner, right? Like if he
Uh,
were to have a thing, I think it would be it would be a national thing, right?
yeah, and I think his friends would be like, he would want and deserve like the full military funeral experience. Tony, you can wild card it like that. Like, we're gonna send some flowers into the river.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I thought that was nice. I thought that was a good funeral. Um,
Then after that, you see Happy and Morgan,
yes,
which is
she
so
wants
sweet.
some
He's
cheeseburgers
cheeseburgers, and he's like, "Oh, your dad really loved cheeseburgers. I'm gonna get you
because
all the
he ate a
cheeseburgers you
cheeseburger
want."
in Iron Man 1
As soon
when
as
he
he
came
comes out of
back. First
captivity,
thing
that's
he
all he
wanted
wants is a
was a
cheeseburger.
cheeseburger,
I did
which
go
is a
get a
great
cheeseburger after
callback.
this film.
Yeah. So yeah, we did see that. If I don't know what's going to happen in the future of the Marvel Universe. If something happens where we get to see Happy kind of be this surrogate father for Morgan, that would be really cool.
Mhm.
I think that would be nice.
Especially because based on the trailers for Homecoming, it seems like he's gonna be Aunt May's new love interest, maybe.
Oh, that'd be
Huh, what?
Peter and Morgan might be half brother and sister if things
I
if
like that
Happy
they're
plays his cards right. They might all be like honorary half brother and sister.
do love that. Yeah, I like that he will have that link to the Stark family.
Yeah, that would be nice. Um, yeah, that's a good happy moment. No
It
pun
is. Yeah,
intended.
yeah.
Then we see Thor and Valkyrie. We see what's up with them, and they are
They're
back
at
in New
New
Asgard.
Asgard.
And Thor's like, "Well, I'm done. I don't want to be the king. Hey Valkyrie, how about you be the ruler of New Asgard?" And she's just like, "But no, I can't. I can't do this. You're the right. You're the right person for the job." And she accepts, and she's
I
like, "All right, well, what are you gonna do?" And Thor joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
First off, I love that Thor, he's always been striving to be the person Asgard needs. And it's like his mom said, you're always going to fail at being the person you're supposed to be. And I like that he
Be
gave
the
it
person
like
you
such
are. Yeah.
yeah, he's gave it such a true, valiant effort. His heart was always in the right place, but he had to go through so much trying to be that leader that he looks
Mm-hmm.
at himself and he says, I am too broken to be a stable enough leader like you need. I have rendered myself ineligible. You deserve better. You deserve somebody different, somebody who is suited to lead. I'm not a leader anymore. I'm a hero,
Or
but
at
I'm not
least
a
I'm not a leader of these honorable, good, noble
yeah.
people.
Living
Maybe
around with
instead
these
I
scouts.
can potentially be a leader of these scoundrels and
Start
and
small.
criminals.
Yes, just start there. I like that. I do really love Thor's journey from being this like braggart blowhard to a guy who's like really broken up and recognizes he's broken up and like takes himself out of situations he knows he shouldn't be in.
Yeah, it's weird because I almost want to say he's had his redemption arc. I don't think he has yet. I think we're about to see it happen. Whatever happens down the road, in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, as Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or who knows if they do Thor 4. I kind
Yeah.
of expect them to. I know they haven't announced anything and they were only originally planning on a trilogy, but they struck gold with Taika
Oh,
Waititi and
yeah.
Thor Ragnarok. There's no way they would just no more Thor movies. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
but I at least want to see how it plays out with Guardians of the Galaxy. I think he'll be a great fit with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope there is a Thor 4 just so that we don't have to smash Guardians 3 and Thor 4 together.
Yeah.
Because there's so many Guardians. Like, we've just gotten Mantis. Like, there's the search to get Gamora back, of course. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you see Peter on the ship using whatever kind of software it has, like, trying to find Gamora, and it just says searching. It doesn't say lost, it says searching, which we can get back to in a little bit.
Which is strange because we don't necessarily know how she left Earth.
Hmm.
Or at least I don't think we saw.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
And,
she
like,
went. Was Nebula there with the Guardians?
Nebula was.
So
I am.
did past Gamora get dusted?
I don't know. She was so aligned with Thanos at that moment, the snap might have included her as an ally, as an enemy to the Avengers in that context.
If that's the case, then I'm wondering if it brought back the original Gamora, which would be interesting because it is someone that Thanos killed to kind of get the stones.
We
I
can
don't
get back to
I don't
this
know
in
how
a
that
little
works.
bit. Let's
but
finish off the movie and then get back to this.
Who knows? So after we see Thor joining the Guardians of the Galaxy, this is when we get the kind of last scene or two of the film, and it is Professor Hulk and Bucky and Falcon sending.
Before this though, there's the little moment with Clint and Wanda,
Yes,
where he's talking about Natasha and he says, I hope she knows it works. And Wanda says, I know they both know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Which more on that as well after
Yes.
all of this. But yeah, so there is that. I thought that was a great moment. Thank you for reminding me of that. But after that is then when we see the final couple scenes, and it is Professor Hulk and Bucky and Falcon sending Captain America back into the past with all of the Infinity Stones and Mjolnir.
And Mjolnir, his new friend.
Yeah, and he is going to set all the stones back in their proper places, thus undoing the fact that Thor stole Mjolnir, that Loki escaped with the Tesseract, yes, stuff like that. I'm still suspicious of that moment, but we'll get back to that. But yeah, so they're like, hey, he's gonna be back. We don't know how long it'll take for him, but for us, it's gonna be like 5 seconds. And they try to bring him back, and he doesn't show up. And I knew immediately when they were like, we're gonna send Captain America back. I was like, nope, he's not coming back. There's no way.
He's not coming back without a long pit stop.
Yes. Um, and so yeah, they try to bring him back, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong. Where is he? And Bucky notices that behind them there's this man sitting on a bench looking out at the lake, and
Mm-hmm.
they go to him, and it is Steve Rogers when he is old,
Yeah.
and
He looks great.
yeah, he does, and they go up to him and they talk to him. He basically was like, yeah, I put all the stones back. By the way, Sam, you're the new Captain
Here's your
America.
new
Have
shield.
fun. here's the shield.
Oh,
Um,
and Sam puts it on and he says it feels like it's
someone
somebody else's.
else's.
And Cap just says,
Well, it's not.
it isn't. He
Yeah.
just it isn't. Ugh.
Um. So yeah, that's a great moment because that also has there's precedent in the comics for both Sam
Yes.
and Bucky
Yes.
as being Captain America. They had both have taken up that mantle at some point, and I think for the MCU, I think Falcon is the right choice for that because Bucky
Doesn't have the same
still has some darkness in him. He's still working that out.
he doesn't have the spirit. I love him, but he doesn't quite have like the charm that a
Yeah,
Captain America
yeah.
should have. Sam definitely does.
Sam does. He can be that type of
Mm-hmm.
later. Um, so yeah, I think that was a fantastic choice. And of course, we then see that Steve has a wedding ring on. Um, and I cried again at that because I knew what was
I
happening.
I knew this was one of your like top wish list items, and it was for a lot of people. And I had no idea what was going to be the final frame of this movie. There's so much stuff they have to do. What is the thing they are going to save for last? And it is the perfect small little choice.
Kiss me once, then kiss me twice, then kiss me once again.
It's some
It's been
cute
a
cute
long, long time.
a
They
cute
have
little
their
cottage.
dance.
A cute little cottage in the 1940s, and it's just him and Peggy having this. I know, like, we are both a mess right now. It's just him and Peggy having that dance finally. That was all he ever wanted. Like, the entire universe, all of these years, all these time space jumps came together so that just these two very, very good people could have a dance with each other.
Yeah, amazing. And that's
Uh,
how the movie ends. And the credits come up, and they just don't they don't do just everyone who was in the movie, which was basically everyone, but they do everyone from the MCU. We see Maria Hill, we see
Well, I think everybody is in the movie, even if it's for a second, or even if you don't spot them. Like,
yeah,
it might not have focused on him, but like Kraglin is out there in the giant battle scene at the end. Like
yeah,
everybody's there somewhere.
yeah, they're out there. And so they do all of all of that stuff. But then the original six, they do. I think I was listening to a
Mhm.
podcast yesterday, and I think this is one of the few times that they have done the signatures in a movie. I think it used to be a Star Trek thing, if I'm not mistaken, that
Oh.
they did in a Star Trek film once all the uh, older actors left. I'm not sure if I heard that right. It was some other
Mm.
film that they did that thing when all of these actors,
Mhm.
left. That's what they did. They did their signatures.
That was such a sweet, personal,
Yeah,
like meta thing that I really appreciated.
yeah. Um, it really felt like the end of a play where all the actors come out on stage and they all do their bows and stuff
Yes,
like that.
it felt
That's
very
really what it
theatrical.
felt like. Yeah. So I really liked that, and of course they ended with Tony Stark as the last one, Robert Downey
Yes.
Jr., and that got a big.
Yes. And then there is not a post or a mid credits anything. The last frame of the film is Steve and Peggy.
Dancing.
And but at the very, very end, over the Marvel logos, you hear this metallic hammering noise,
Mm-hmm.
which is a callback to Tony in the cave building the first ever Iron Man suit. Not time-wise the first Avenger, but in the franchise, in the cinema world.
Where it all started.
That was
It
great.
was great. It
Its
was
own living Mobius strip.
fantastic. What a great film.
It's like even just sitting here talking about it, like we are getting so emotional just repeating lines from the movie.
Yeah. Do you want to take a quick break and then come
Yeah.
back and discuss spoilers and Easter eggs? Or I guess we were already in
Yep.
spoilers, but more Easter
Yeah,
eggs
come
and
back for like
theories and stuff like that.
speculation
Yeah,
and like more meta talk. That sounds great.
cool. We can do that. We'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. So we just did our recap. That was a very long recap, but I think well worth it. Yeah, almost as long as the actual movie. We might as well have just done the movie ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you want to play?
All of them.
Well, who do I get to play?
All the other ones. We'll both be all of them. So yeah, I want to get into more of like speculation and theories and where we think the Marvel Universe might go after this. What we know, what we don't know, what we're kind of piecing together here.
I'm going to stop and ask you, what was on your endgame wish list that you didn't get?
I don't know. I don't know if I really actually had a wish list of like it needs to hit these moments, like these specific things for me. Except I really, really, really wanted Steve to go back and get his dance, and he did.
Yes, I wanted that. We got. Oh boy, that's a highlight of the film for sure. I wanted some, if not necessarily a cameo, some sort of a callback or a nod to Coulson.
Okay, which I guess we didn't get, but that would have been nice.
Captain Marvel was a nice return to him. I can live with that because I was just so shortly ago.
Yeah. Oh, I also want to do more like critiques and stuff of the film rather than just recapping it too in this section. But yeah, I don't know if I really had an actual list of stuff because I think Marvel had earned my trust long ago just to be like, you guys can take it away. I know you guys will make it work. I just whatever you give me, I'm sure it'll at least be solid, you know?
And, absolutely.
Yeah, and this was exactly that. So all of the payoff that we got, it was just like
feat to pull off, and they did it.
Yeah.
They did it so well.
But to see like Iron Man get to talk to his father, to see Tony get to talk to Howard, like yeah, I mean, just like stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I would like some kind of closure and moments like that.
Yes.
But I wasn't necessarily specifically asking for, oh, well, if they do time travel, let's, have Tony talk to his dad and everything will be swell, I didn't really have that stuff.
No, there were things I was expecting and kind of hoping for just in like a fun way. I wanted one more like cool like needle drop, like especially after I'm like, oh well, whenever they bring Star-Lord back, like hit some great like classic pop or rock song or something like that.
Yeah.
The uses of music in this movie are very good, especially the final one. Like I think the way they open the movie and the way they close the movie are perfect. So I'm cool without another like rubber band man moment from the first movie.
Yeah.
I was really hoping to get more. I was very concerned about Gamora. I remain concerned about Gamora. I will remain so for who knows how long. But I'd like that everybody who died from a non-snap reason, so her, Natasha, Vision, Loki, they're all a mystery. Like it's
one thing. So let's back up a bit. Here's what we do know so far. Here's what's been confirmed: Spider-Man 2, Black Panther 2, Guardians 3, and they are working on a Black Widow movie.
and
And then there
Eternals.
Eternals, yes. I think even Shang-Chi is one of
Oh,
the other
yes, that guy.
movies. But then there's also the Disney Plus
Yes, yes, yes.
shows, which I think
Which
this
are,
movie set up pretty fantastically.
yeah, we are set up for a Loki. We are set up for a Hawkeye. We are set up for a Winter Soldier and Falcon. And WandaVision, a little fuzzier. Again, we can presume a lot of these will be midquels, I think is the kind of portmanteau people give to things. The
Mhm.
Lion King 1.5s, if you will.
Sure.
Like it's going to take place before Infinity War.
Yeah. So I'm thinking the Loki one
Mm.
will be his adventures when the Tesseract fell at his feet and
I
he just
like that a lot.
disappeared.
Yeah, I'm
I would
very happy
love to
about that.
have that be the setup for that show because in the end it all kind of gets wiped out because they put the stone back like nothing ever happened. But like since we know that time works well, I mean I guess he's in the Tesseract, but there's this whole other thing to explore of it's like, hey, what did he do while he was off on this thing? And I think to see him get some kind of new arc, maybe even a redemption arc, I don't know if he needs one or not, but still just some kind of thing where he then kind of realizes like I mean him realizing that the timeline he is in is not the right one and it's going to get evaporated and he has to like fix it or save it or something. Who knows? That might be a neat thing. Because we also don't know if Loki is back or not because Thanos killed him at the start of Infinity War.
Yeah.
We don't know if that means he got brought back or not. Same thing with Gamora. Like we don't know if their original Gamora is back or not. I don't think she is, but
yeah, Loki and Vision, I don't know. Although with Vision, it's possible like
Vision,
there could be a.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe they downloaded his consciousness in Wakanda.
I
So
think
if
they got at
wanted
least most
to,
of it. They can like start a new Vision and like piece them together with chunks of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for Vision. So Steve goes to take all of the stones back. What happens when you try to return the Soul Stone?
Yeah.
That
would be
back?
an awkward moment because that's Red Skull too. She's like, oh, hey, I know you.
Red Skull is finally done with his years-long curse, and here comes his old enemy, Captain America.
Oh God, no! I'll jump off myself. Just take the stone.
So if he returns the Soul Stone, it kind of came from like, is he only going to get Nat? Is he going to get Nat and Gamora? Is this going to work like,
or does he get anything back, or is it just like, hey,
like
keep this thing again?
Or like the two wands fighting each other at the end of Harry Potter and all the ghosts come out of Voldemort's wand. Like, so like, oh, here's I guess. So the Infinity Stones don't work in like a Dragon Ball sort of way where they get like collected and used and then dispersed again and then collected and used. It's not a cycle. Is this the first time, do you know? Is this the first time the Infinity Stones have been united like this? Would anybody have gotten the Soul Stone before Thanos? Would
Potentially,
there be
yes.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone has gathered all of the stones together. They don't really mention that in the MCU if it's happened before. I mean, maybe they do, and that's why they hid them. They, like separated them all and stuff like that. That could be very plausible. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, so there's hope that maybe Steve doesn't know this. You figured he would come back and maybe say like, oh, by the way, I don't know if she's really in our timeline or not, but I think I got Nat and some green lady out of that pit. Like, I figure if that was the case, he maybe would have said that first, but
who knows? Yeah.
So I feel like there's hope there that returning the Soul Stone will like
do something.
It'll tip the scales. And so to balance the scales out, you have to take out those souls that were sacrificed.
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, I think it sets up the Loki show really, or
Mhm.
potentially really well. Um, I think it sets up the Sam Wilson and Bucky show
Yes.
really well. WandaVision, that's the one I still don't really know. Because
Mhm.
what if it is like this, so that the Vision comic that I really want them to adapt into a
Mhm.
show, it actually doesn't really involve Scarlet Witch.
Mhm.
Um, but it would be a neat kind of thing if his consciousness in the computers at Wakanda is imagining that thing happen, and it's this tale that starts out as this really chipper leave it to
Mm.
beaver kind of 50s style, family sitcom thing, but it just gets darker and darker and darker until he realizes, like, he starts to, like, things just go wrong and things go bad, and he starts to realize and understand that this is not reality.
Mhm.
This is not, and then he gets woken up and there is Scarlet Witch right there. Who knows that? But yeah, just by the name of the show, I doubt that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
but that would be on my wish list for that show.
Mhm.
Something like that, where they can adapt The Vision by Tom King.
I am excited for the What If show because I feel like now we've opened up a lot of those things to be tied back to Endgame, not just whole cloth what ifs on their own.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued. I think the only one we know for sure is that it'll be what if Peggy was Captain America,
Mhm.
and I'm very excited for like a real buff Haley Atwell and maybe a return to tiny, slimmed down Steve Rogers.
Well, that one's going to be animated. So it's not,
Oh, it is?
yeah, it's
I didn't
not
hear
real
that
life.
part. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wait.
animated.
Oh, the entire series is animated, isn't it?
Yes.
I forgot about that part. Dang,
Hmm.
no tiny Steve for
I mean,
me.
we might get Tiny Steve, but just someone drew him instead.
And they didn't like digitally shrink down Chris Evans.
Yeah. So when the camera shifted to old man Steve at the end there,
Mhm.
at first I thought, I was like, oh, that's him without the serum. Like, it's him, like, no, like, he's not the super soldier thing, because that's been a thing in the comics too, where he got the serum taken out of him and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um so I didn't
No,
necessarily think
he's
he
just
was
old.
like old. I thought he was like the same age he had always been in the present day, but just like no longer
Nah.
super soldier. But yeah, then I was
Cuz
like, oh
this
no, it's old man. Oh shit, did
Yeah,
they do the
yeah.
thing with Peggy? Oh my god, I'm gonna
Yes.
cry. But yeah, so I'm wondering how the Eternals will play into this. So there
I'm
was some
very
messing with the
excited for
time
that.
stream. I'm wondering if they're gonna
Yes.
be like, hey, what the fuck, guys? You just
Yeah.
screwed everything up. Why? What the
And
hell?
like we have preserved okay, a lot of the like
But then I don't know how
we
Shang-Chi fits into that. Like, that's
yeah,
complete opposite.
I think okay, so there's two kind of sides to the MCU. There's the weird side, which is where you have like Doctor Strange and the Guardians and Captain Marvel, and there's the more grounded side, which is where
Captain
and Thor's
America,
over there too.
political thriller,
Yeah, yeah. And
action
I feel like
movie, Iron
Shang-Chi
Man.
is going to be a contribution to kind of help build up grounded MCU, but the Eternals, they've still got everything they need to
I don't
really
know, man.
make the most out of
I
weird
feel like if they
MCU.
want to do Shang-Chi right, it needs to be as
Is that a
like,
weird story?
not really. He's the master of kung fu. He's not a
Yeah, see, it didn't
superhero, but he
sound
knows,
magic to me.
yeah, he knows kung fu. So there might be some mystical elements
Mhm.
considering the Asian character and Asian influences and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, and I know that they're really trying to make this like an Asian actors
That
led
sounds
film,
great.
all of that stuff. But he's more martial arts than anything else. So
Yes.
I want this to be like a kung fu film. Like,
Yeah,
have his
yeah.
things be the crouching tiger, hidden dragon, like, but set in New York.
Yes.
So it is more street level crime. It is more like the Daredevil Netflix shows or the
Mhm.
Iron Fists show, even though that show is terrible. But
Mhm.
yeah, just like that more street level stuff rather than like, we're a big superhero saving the world. Like, this is just some dude. Um, saving New York, if not training other people. Like he's
Yeah.
there. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and I remember a
Mhm.
few years ago, Spider-Man kind of got his powers taken away for a short bit, and so to make up for, or he got his like spider sense taken
Mhm.
away, and that's what he uses to fight. It warns him when there is danger coming and where it's coming from, so he can use that to fight and dodge and stuff like that. He's never actually, like, he's not a karate master, he's not a black belt in excuse me, in jujitsu. um
Mhm.
and so he had to go to Shang-Chi to develop his own fighting style and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if he's gonna end up becoming this role of like, hey, this is the guy that's training up the next generation of heroes and actually teaching them how to fight and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that. That would be neat.
That would be cool. You might have seen me just make a face. I
I
went to
did.
look up because I want to know when we're going to get more concrete information about the MCU moving forward now that Endgame is done, and they were kind of waiting for Endgame to like open the floodgates to here's a better idea of where we're going
Mm-hmm.
next. I'm like, it's either going to come at Comic-Con or D23. I think D23 is first. I looked it up. Nope, D23 is not till like August. It's like at least a full month after Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
gonna have to wait till like late
I
July.
can see them getting Spider-Man out of the way, and
Yeah.
maybe even Guardians 3 out of the way, and then announcing the stuff.
Ooh, I don't Guardians 3, that's postponed a while. There a date for Guardians 3? Because I
I don't know.
know
I don't think so.
that's not happening until James Gunn is done with Suicide Squad 2, which he agreed to in that period between when he was hired and rehired again.
He's just gonna go back and forth between those films, or I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be like, "Sorry, DC. Who knows? Peace out. I did my one, set you off in the right direction. Now
Yeah, yeah.
continue."
Yeah. I am very intrigued to see how the DCCU goes forward with his influence because I
Mm-hmm.
love Guardians so much. And I did see like in one of these, Endgame, recap theories, where's the MCU going next kind of videos, a picture of a tweet he had that was like the front, like the cover sheet for the Guardians 3 script, and he just titled, he just tweeted every bit of my heart and soul, or every bit of my heart. It didn't say soul. Soul
Mm-hmm.
like means something now because that's where Gamora is. She's out in that big orange rock somewhere.
Yeah.
Every bit of my heart, and it's. Uh, I will wait as long as I need to for Guardians 3 to make sure it is right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do with films like Shang-Chi or the Eternals yet. Um, I I'm wondering if Black Panther, especially because of the end of that first film where they kind of
Yeah.
opened up their borders a little bit and are like, I guess going out to help the world. If this is
Mm-hmm.
really the time to shine for them to help
That'd be
rebuild the world,
nice.
especially after all this devastation from Thanos.
Yeah, just imagine all that Wakandan technology, just like a little bit of it all over the place.
Yeah.
What a
Um,
world.
so that could be interesting. Spider-Man 2, though, I don't know how much that's going to actually address things that have happened in Endgame.
I wonder if they're
I know
because
the
we don't.
solo movies are usually, they've in the deal they made, they were like, we're going to kind of keep the solo movies pretty separate for the
Oh,
most part, but
Iron
I
Man
don't know.
3 had a lot of fallout from the first Avengers.
Yes.
Okay, so we didn't see where everybody went after they got dusted. Peter gives us the impression it felt like seconds, like they weren't there for
They
very
just stopped
long.
existing.
Yeah, but it seems like they were in some kind of place because he's like, well, like Doctor Strange said this. So they didn't die, they went somewhere. Like, I really agree with that interpretation. I wonder if Spider-Man Homecoming is going to act a little bit like the way Iron Man 3 acted, like after Tony went up in that wormhole in space and
What's it
she's like,
like to
oh,
come
dang.
back home after all of
Yeah,
this
and
has
like we'll
happened? Yeah.
see a little bit of where he was, what happened, even as brief as it was. Like, it's going to be him recovering. I also wonder if Black Panther 2 might have some of that because
Mhm.
T'Challa looked like among the most shaken after everybody came back after that.
Yeah.
He looked like it really threw him for a loop.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, we'll see what's happening there. I'm
Mhm.
excited for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Fan theory kind of wish list thing, because of the 5-year time jump. Not everyone got killed. It looked like both Peter and Ned did, at least. I'm assuming MJ did, just so they can keep
Yeah,
her
no,
this,
yeah,
so
because
they
they're
can
the
keep
same age, yeah.
Zendaya in. What if a young Harry Osborn was 5 years younger than them, and
Oh.
now he's in their class?
Ooh. I
Could be
like that. I
interesting.
like that idea.
Could be interesting. So yeah, just like some other important Spider-Man
Mhm.
character that, or Gwen Stacy. It's like a young
Yeah.
Gwen Stacy was 5 years younger than them, but because half of them got killed in this thing, and the other half grew those 5 years, now they're the same age. I think that would be
Mm,
neat. That would be really neat.
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, but
Ah,
who knows? Um,
yeah.
I guess.
Do you want to go ahead on to the kiddos, the kind of new generation that this is building up? Because we've got Lila Barton, we've got Cassie Lang,
Yeah,
and she still has more growing up to do, but we've got Morgan Stark,
yeah.
who I like all of them. They are 3 brunette girls, and I really hope somebody grows up and dyes their hair, because I know we will have diversity, like cultural diversity, but I don't want all the white characters to also be brunettes. Like, I need more visual
Well,
diversity than
I
that.
mean, all
Somebody
the
get a weird
guys are
haircut,
are named
something.
Chris, so it's
It's like,
Chris
okay,
and the brunettes.
yeah, yeah, it's like we had a bunch of blondes. Welcome to the brunette generation. Like, can
What if there was a cover band that only did like Marvel related songs, and they were called Chris and the Brunettes?
4 Chris's, 3 Chris's.
um, but yeah, so the aged up Cassie Lang is played by Emma Furman, who I have no idea who she is. I don't recognize anything she's been in. Um, it looks like she has a number of things under her belt.
Well,
She
good
was
for
in The
her.
Magic of Belle Isle alongside Morgan Freeman.
I recognize that name.
But yeah, I don't recognize anything that she has been in. So I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean that is I think that'd be perfect for them. Get someone who's a young actor who
Mhm.
isn't super star studded yet, and because
Yeah.
that's difficult to pay for, even though Disney has all the money in the world. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, and like really invest in them and be like, hey,
Yeah.
for the next 10 years, you're gonna be Cassie Lang, and you're gonna grow up to be a superhero.
That
That
sounds
might be neat.
nice. Oh.
But yeah, I'm excited to see her if they do more stuff with
Mhm.
her. Um, I'm assuming there's going to be a Captain Marvel 2, which we might see Monica Rambeau grow
Yeah,
up a
so
little
we've
bit.
got Cassie, Lila, the Morgan, she might be like the youngest we're gonna get. We're gonna get Monica. Um,
We have Peter still. There
yeah,
might be an
Pete.
Amadeus Cho out there in the
Yes,
world somewhere.
Amadeus Cho.
I don't know. So there might be like some sort
Oh,
of Champions movie.
the this universe's Miles.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is, Donald Glover mentioning
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, because like I didn't want here.
Yeah. Miles exists somewhere. But if Peter Parker is the age he's at, I don't know if they really are
Yeah.
going to do that just yet. Who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe there'll be 2
Mhm.
Spider-Men running around New York. Could be neat.
Yeah.
They have Iron Man and Pepper in an iron suit and War Machine and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they'll.
I'd be interested to see Rescue pop up again. Like, how often does Pepper take that suit out of the closet?
Yeah, yeah. Um. So I want to talk about the time travel stuff real fast. Actually,
Yeah.
let me see. What did I put in my notes? So I tried to write down things I didn't like about the film, which are few and far between and are mainly just nitpicks.
Mhm.
Uh, like again, like how did Captain Marvel just find Tony and Nebula out there? How? No one knows.
I I
No
don't know
one
if
knows.
there's
That's weird.
things that are like
They're light years away. Light years.
I don't think I didn't spot any real like plot holes in this. I think it's just there's information you don't have yet.
Yeah. I mentioned the beginning was a little bit slow. Here's one. Captain Marvel, I thought was very underwhelming in this film. She had
I
a couple great moments, like when Thanos headbutted
Mhm.
her, and she's just like,
Yeah,
she didn't even flinch. And just
that
like, what
was
the fuck was that?
great.
That was amazing.
Mhm.
I think she's used well for when she's in there, but I was kind of expecting to see a little bit more of her in the film.
I
I don't know. I mean,
I
not that
liked
I
the way
needed it to be her film, but
yeah, I like the way she was used. I think she was in there enough.
Mhm.
Like she came out, she's this massive powerhouse. Like she's there to save the day. She's incredibly
Yeah,
popular, very well liked, very powerful. They still let this be an Avengers
which
movie.
I think was the right move
Yeah,
exactly.
and I did hear that this was all filmed before
Yep.
Captain Marvel was filmed.
Hmm.
So she isn't as
Into the character.
yeah, like they had to do this
So they
first. That's why
they
she doesn't
filmed
have
this
quite as
back to
much like
back with Infinity War.
yeah. Like she
So
doesn't have as much like sparkle of life to her in this as she does in her own movie because she grew into doing that. But I think it's
yeah,
still I like her in this. I like the little moments she has. I would have liked there to be a little bit more stuff, but I understand logistically why there wasn't.
my
I liked her
other.
haircut.
Oh yeah. I think her haircut looked fantastic. I was gonna say my other small nitpick that we don't really need to discuss all that much was just how exactly did Nebula get Thanos into the future? Because I don't know if she knew how to work that time machine, especially since that's Nebula from the past. But I guess she was sharing her consciousness with the future Nebula, so maybe there's some
Yeah.
information sharing there. Who knows? It just seemed a little like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, how did she know? How does that work?
There's so many like technical threads going on. Like
Yeah.
I am absolutely going to go see this more times.
Here's the one I want to discuss, though.
Okay.
Captain America going back to live his life with Peggy. What does that actually mean? Does that mean that there was another Steve Rogers, just plain clothes Steve Rogers out there in the MCU this whole time? Because, like we mentioned, what's her name said, "Hey, you can't change the past. What happened." And
Mhm.
so there's if Steve stayed and did all of that stuff, what he did back then is actually what happened in that timeline.
Yes, there is another timeline outside of the MCU where we live, outside of MCU 616, as it were, where there may have been two Steves. Or maybe like that Steve is in the ice. There's Ice Steve and there's Steve walking around.
Yeah, something like that, where it's just like, hey, you don't need to get the one in the ice. Here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that I just think that's kind of incredible to think that while the Shatari are attacking New York, there's like old man Steve watching it on the news. You know,
Like, oh, I
sitting
remember
right
this.
there with Peggy. Yeah. Um.
I wonder if they had kids in the alternate universe.
So that's the thing. I don't know if alternate universe is the right terminology because it happened.
It did. It is all absolutely real.
Because
Exactly.
it's when they return the Infinity Stones, all of those split timelines
Yeah.
disappear. So we still only have that one timeline where what happened.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like it's so here's the interesting thing. Obviously, Captain America at the end of Captain America 1 puts the ship down in the ice, right?
Hmm.
He wakes up in 2018 or 20 whenever it was that they made the first Avengers film, and he never got to have his dance with Peggy, stuff like that. However, the Agent Carter TV show
Yes, you
has
know
a
this and I
few
don't.
details. I've seen that show. I love that show. Apparently, I just learned today that it's written by the same, or it was made by
Yeah.
the same people who wrote all of the Captain America movies, who wrote Infinity War, who wrote Endgame, all of this stuff. So I'm assuming because they wrote it, it all kind of fits together in with one another.
Mm-hmm.
In blah blah blah. What's the second Captain America film? Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah. My mind just went blank.
Cold Fight Boy.
Bleh. Yeah. Who's that white American named Chris? In that, when he goes to the museum to look back at his life there and figure out what happened, there's mention, or we see in the background somehow, that Peggy gets married and has 2 kids, and the man she gets married to was saved by Captain America in 45 at a certain battle.
I kind of remember this,
but they don't name him. They never name him. They never show you what he looks like. He goes unnamed. In the Agent Carter TV show, we pick up with Peggy after, the first 10 minutes of that show is the last 10 minutes of the Captain America film. And she's working for the SSR. She comes back to work. There's all the misogyny she has to deal with. You're a woman. Your place is behind the desk. You can't do all of this stuff. But she's the only.
I thought you said there's all this massaging she has to deal with, and I'm like, what's going on in this office?
I mean, she kind of has to massage her way into doing all of this stuff because she's the
phrase, Kyle.
She's the only competent. We're one of the only competent ones in this thing. But she is the real hero of that show. But the show, while not really focusing on it, does kind of add to that mystery of who is her husband. There's a character that she ends up kind of having a love interest with, but if you add the details up, it doesn't really fit. If I remember correctly, his name is D'Souza, I think was his last name, but he hurt his leg in a battle the year before. Whoever this mystery man was that Captain America saved in 45. So we know that she doesn't marry this guy or have kids with him.
And it seems like at her funeral, I don't, like, the person giving her eulogy is her niece. You'd think that, I mean, it's possible that she very well could have been widowed when she died, but if she had 2 kids, it would have been one of them.
Well, no, because old Steve is there at the old Steve is there at the end of Endgame. That's him. That is old Steve. He's like 90 something. Because Peggy died when she was 90 something.
Yeah. Good long life for Peg.
Yeah, and so if he's a couple years younger than her, if I'm not mistaken, then
that sounds right.
He's maybe 90 at the end of Endgame there. But yeah, season 1 they don't mention it. Season 2 of Agent Carter, they never name who it is. They never show you who it is. And the show got canceled after 2 seasons, and apparently when asked about it, these writers had said, yeah, 3rd season we were hoping to give you options and explore that mystery a little bit more, if not outright, say who it was, but they never got to do that. So it's one of those things that's like, well, it absolutely could have actually just been
like maybe
Steve.
They had just some guy, I'm sure he was not some guy. He's marrying Margaret Peggy Carter. He's got to be an upstanding gentleman for her to marry him. But then that option was taken away, and they're like, can we finagle it so it's still Steve?
Yeah, I mean, because that would be fantastic. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember where I read all of this stuff. I would list the article, but I completely forgot right now and who wrote the thing. But yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I heard them write something, or I didn't hear them write something. I read something that they wrote in which it seemed like the person that she had the kids with may not have been Steve, and that she maybe got a divorce, or that guy died, or who knows. And but yeah, there is this idea of this mystery husband.
Mm.
Who is this person? We don't know exactly. Um, so yeah, I think that's an interesting one, but that's the one I'm still not sure how that works exactly. If there was a second Steve floating around back there, huh?
I feel like this time travel stuff is something we need to rewatch the movie and like sit on.
Yeah,
Like it will be, I don't know, June 16th, and I'll be like, I get it now. It makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what else? Do you have any other kind of thoughts, theories,
Mm,
critiques? What do you want to see going forward in the MCU?
I'm very intrigued about the Guardians, this as Guardians of the Galaxy thing. I really hope we are going to get Adam Warlock as teased. He's not going to play the same role in this
Mm-hmm.
narrative that he might have, because I don't know much about Adam Warlock outside of Infinity Gauntlet, but I thought he was fun in that. And I don't know if we need a character in the MCU that does what Infinity Gauntlet Adam Warlock does, because he's such a powerhouse, and it's like we have Captain Marvel. Like, how many powerhouses like that do we need around?
Yeah.
But just him as a concept is this like shiny, perfect, like goldenrod and tangerine dream man wandering around. Him,
Just imagine him in like a Hawaiian shirt and like white khaki shorts.
I want him to look like a late 70s like heartthrob singer. That's who he looks like to
Yeah.
me. I want to see. I like that. I hope,
Okay.
especially like you get Peter and you introduce Thor, and then you introduce Adam Warlock, who's going to outshine both of them. Just
Yeah.
it's like all blonde like dreamboat men all button heads with each other. That's a good time for me. I We still need to find out where Rocket came from. I'm wondering if there's more to that, because that's one of the dangling plot threads. It's a very minor one.
I
Somebody
don't know if
made
we
him like
necessarily
this.
need that, but yeah, that is one of those things. They haven't explored that, and we know that he was a creation.
Yes. I don't think it's required to explore it. If they end up not doing it, I would never mind. It's fine. It's just a setup to who he is, that he
Yeah.
doesn't know his background. He doesn't need a full, backstory exploration like he's Wolverine or something. But that's a place they could go. Uh, the search for Gamora is like really high on my mind, because that's
So what about to switch it up? What about X-Men and Fantastic Four? Because Disney now has those. We've heard them say it was not going to be at least 5 years until we see them, so we don't really know.
yeah.
And I don't even know if it was a quote like that of like, hey, you'll see them in like 5 years, but it's just like like as of our plans right now, we don't have them. But they could be lying. They've done stuff like that before. They've switched up their marketing to show certain characters and certain aspects that aren't actually in those scenes and stuff like that. So
They have.
they do a little bit of subterfuge to switch things up.
This is true. That was originally what I was thinking, that they've got they've got machinations in place, and they're not revealing them to us yet. But then you think about how far ahead they have to plan things. I think they have started probably like 2 or 3 years ago. No, maybe not three, but about 2 years ago, year and a half, however long.
Mm-hmm.
They have started to put that into the equations that they are building, because there's such a long lead time. I don't know how early it will be before we get anything more than like an Easter egg or a nod.
I think they have an easy way to set it up.
What do you think may be the introduction point?
The snap. Literally using the Infinity Stones, they explained, releases a huge burst of energy and radiation.
Uh-huh.
There
Yep.
were let's see, technically like 2 or 3 snaps on Earth, right?
Mhm.
There was the original one. Then there was the one that Hulk did, and the one that Tony did.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of radiation on Earth
That
there. That could
is.
definitely account for an X gene, a mutation, some kind of something being introduced that way.
Mm-hmm.
And who
It's a
knows,
long dang
maybe
time, though.
it is a long dang time, yeah. So we don't know if maybe the X-Men movies take place in the future, or maybe there is some weird kind of time travel stuff that did happen in there and we don't know.
The thing about the X-Men is that it's so multi-generational. I would not want that to be removed from it. I wouldn't want now is the beginning
Well,
of any mutants.
I don't think it's gonna be like, hey, babies born as of this date
Yeah.
are have the opportunity. It's gonna be someone who's been alive for 30 years already
Okay.
now is suddenly manifesting powers. How does
All
that
this
work?
magnetic stuff is sticking to my hands.
Yeah. So I mean, that could be a potential thing like that. But again, they also have the Fantastic Four who were out in space during a big space accident. What if that same blast of energy radiated out so far into space that it hit their ship?
Yes. I like them. I think I love the X-Men, but I think given the choice between the two of them, like who do you want to see first? I'm really interested in the Fantastic Four.
Fantastic
I feel
Four.
like they're a better match for the MCU as it is now and as we have known it. Because like
Mm-hmm.
I think this was brought up like once years ago on like Jay and Miles when like they was first introduced the concept of, oh, Disney might be getting 20th Century Fox. They could integrate
Yeah.
X-Men into this. And they're like, the thing about X-Men, like one of the major tenets of that story is the world that hates and fears them. This world the MCU has is too accepting. It's too nice of a world almost to put X-Men in without really modifying a lot. Whereas
But
I feel like the
so
Fantastic Four, they are more like you can drop them in almost anywhere.
I would 100% agree with you until the Avengers Infinity War and now Endgame. Their
You think
world
this
has
is
gone to shit. They spent 5 years with half the population just gone. I'm sure governments were barely working. People were vying for power in different spots. People who once run companies now have people who are much lower down step up and do all So there's all sorts of stuff happening and changing, and it's changing fast. And then boom, suddenly everyone is back. That's scary as shit. And oh shit, now random people are manifesting powers?
You think that could breed more fear?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I
And what if it's a thing that only the people that got snapped are the ones that have powers, and so that's why, like, hey, we've been here longer than you. Like, you guys technically aren't even supposed to be here. Why are you the ones getting powers? Like that I think would be seen as a
okay.
threat.
I think they could do something like that. I think the MCU, the
I
world.
I don't want it to be something of like, oh, they've always been here.
No,
Dark elves.
I think the what has happened to Earth in the MCU,
Uh-huh.
it definitely is a place that could breed fear.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a place that could breed a lot of prejudice. And I imagine you could still tell an X-Men story without that element to it. I could see that, but still between the two of them, like Fantastic Four sounds like
They've
it's such a neat match in there. It fits in. There's already so much like it's got the cosmic element, it's got the New York element, it's got
science
such nice
element, yeah.
family bonds. I think
They
there's
haven't done a
really
good Fantastic Four film. They need it. They desperately need it. Because they are the cornerstone or
I
the
feel like they would
capstone
have
of
to make a
Marvel
place
Universe.
for X-Men, and a place for the Fantastic Four is already there. Now, is there anybody else who's on the table? Is there like, because you're gonna have to, because I don't remember the legality of who has transferred over, who's where, who has the rights to what. Is like
Galactus, Silver
Blade on the
Surfer.
table?
Yes, they actually do have the rights back to Blade.
I'd be intrigued by Blade.
Blade would be
I know I was just
interesting.
talking about how the Fantastic Four fit and the X-Men need a little work. I love how weird
That I
Blade
don't
is.
think
I
the
love that, like,
Blade, to be clear, I don't think the Blade thing was owned by Fox. They got the
mhm.
rights back to that a couple years ago, and they
Okay.
just haven't done anything with it. Um, but I mean, what Fox has and what Disney has kind of been uh fuzzy, because I think even things like what they call it, they were gonna make a movie, but the
Oh,
Inhumans,
yes.
they first kind of showed up in Fantastic Four. Even the Skrulls are more like
Oh, yes.
Fantastic Four based stuff like that. That's a thing. Um, so yeah, it's just this idea of like borrowing back
Mhm.
and forth. If I'm not mistaken, I think even Black Panther first showed up, and I could be really wrong on
That
that.
that sounds familiar too, maybe, because like, people have their first appearances in really places you
Yep,
would not
Black
expect.
Panther's first appearance was in Fantastic Four number 52.
Mhm. I'm I think Doctor Doom is a good candidate for an upcoming villain because, like you were just saying, there's been so much of like a socio-political shakeup.
I want Doom to be the Loki of the next, not in terms of comedy, but that like the villain that everyone loves but hates, and he's a bad guy, but we like him, and he's a good
Yeah.
guy at times, and
Mhm.
he just, I am Doom and I want to rule Latveria, and you know stuff like that. Just
Yeah,
like,
I think there's a place for a Doom, and I think they've got plenty of like big villains to choose from. I'd love to see Silver Surfer. I'm also thinking more about just like allies that could pop in and out. Like I was just talking about Blade, like I love that this world has everything, but it doesn't have vampires yet. And I'm like, come on, vampires. How weird
they
can this
are.
get?
I don't know
Come
how
on,
much
flaming skull biker.
I don't know how much it'll tie in, but they are making that Morbius movie in for
Yeah.
the Spider-Man stuff. It's one of those things like Venom didn't really tie in, from what I understand. I didn't see
No.
Venom, but maybe it's the same thing
Venom's a
that
wild
Jared
ride. Get
Leto
yourself a couple
Morbius
beers and
film.
watch Venom. It ain't bad. It ain't a bad
One day,
time.
one day.
It's a good experience to watch a Venom.
Yeah, I could see something like Galactus happening, of like
Mhm.
Silver Surfer showing up for the next quote unquote whatever the Avengers
He
equivalent
crashes
is.
through the roof of the Sanctum Sanctorum
It's like, Galactus
again.
is coming. God damn it, not again.
I,
Or Annihilus. I think Annihilus might be neat,
I know
and I
less about
think
Annihilus. Who exactly is this?
I'm not super familiar. Let's see, Marvel
Annihilus.
Annihilus. Come on, Google. Wikipedia is a fictional supervillain appearing in Marvel Comics, primarily an adversary for the Fantastic Four. First
Okay.
appearing in Fantastic Four Annual Number 6 from 68, from November of 68. His big thing is the Annihilation comic book event. So Annihilus has at various time been ruler of the negative zone. So
Oh, a negative zone sounds fun.
yeah, in the comics, Fantastic Four kind of discovers this negative zone, very similar to the quantum realm. It's
Hmm.
this other kind of pocket universe that's not like real, it's microscopic, it's all of this, it's that. But in the comics, in the negative zone, there are like creatures that live there that they didn't necessarily know was there at the start. Um, and they eventually come out of the negative zone to do something like that. What if the quantum realm is also their sort of negative zone, and
Yeah.
there's actually creatures in there, and they've been messing with this realm? Who the fuck are these people jumping in and out, and so they jump out of that, and so something, I don't know, that could be neat. Who knows? But that would be another good bad guy. I would like to see them bring back Nova, the Nova Corps.
They were cool. I would love to see the Nova Corps
I
back.
want to see Space Cop.
Guardians, yep, in Guardians 3 or in Captain Marvel could
So
very easily run into them.
I've also not read I've read, I think, barely anything Nova related except
Mm-hmm.
maybe a few random issues here and there. But if I'm not mistaken, it like there was a more recent origin story where the helmet just like falls out of the sky into some kid's backyard and he picks
Huh.
it up. So that could also potentially be a thing, that here's this helmet that's been flying through space for the past 10 years and somehow made its way to Earth right on Richard Rider's doorstep or whoever it is. And he restarts the Nova Corps, but he's the only one or something.
Hmm.
Who knows? I think that'd be neat. I'd like to see Kamala Khan. That could be the Spider-Man
Yes.
thing, but I would also kind of like to see her be more involved with Captain Marvel, because
Mm-hmm.
Carol Danvers used to be Miss Marvel, and then she took the name Captain Marvel after Marvel died and did all that stuff. So there is this sense of legacy with that, but it looks like they also have Monica Rambeau. We don't really
Yeah.
know what's happening with that yet. There's so much stuff.
There's so many people they could add. Squirrel Girl has been so popular in
Yeah,
recent years. They could find a place for a Squirrel Girl. Imagine like her teaming up with Ant-Man or something like that.
that would be interesting. Uh, who else do I want? Yeah, I'd
Mhm.
like to see. I'm wondering if. I mean, we just don't know what they're gonna do for the next thing. I don't know if there's gonna
Ha-
be more Avengers films or if there's a new team that starts
yeah.
up, like the
Have we seen the
Champions.
last movie with Avengers in the name? That's true.
Yeah.
Huh.
Um, is it the new Avengers? There's been multiple Avengers teams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or is it something like the Champions, which is basically the Teen Titans, and we get that story. We get Cassie Lang and Monica Rambeau and Miles
Yeah.
Morales and Amadeus Cho and Kamala Khan and all that
Mhm.
stuff. That would be fantastic.
What genres would you like to see them explore? We've talked about like
Horror,
characters and other things. Yes,
horror,
same.
absolutely. That would
Because
fit
we've seen
perfectly for
them
Blade.
play around with genre a little bit. Like the heist movie part of Ant-Man movies are great. The more spacey part of Guardians, the very sort of operatic Shakespearean parts of like the early Thor movies.
Mhm.
I would love to see a horror. I'd also love to see
I
something
thought
that's
that's what they were gonna do with Doctor Strange, because the guy that directed that was a well-known horror director. I
maybe a
was like,
Doctor Strange
ooh,
sequel. Like
like
maybe
magic, like
whenever like
horror magic, like when that happened, like that sounds awesome.
we've got a space like whenever Baron Mordo comes back.
Yeah,
That could be cool. I'd also, and again, this might just be me, I'd like to see like more of a straight up and I think like the WandaVision series is a great
can
opportunity
you
for
say that
that.
one more time? I apologize. You got a little roboty there, and I
Oof.
couldn't hear.
And this might just be me and my own sensibilities. I've loved all the romances in these movies. I'd like to see a movie that is very romance
Romance
based.
related, yeah, that'd be neat.
And WandaVision seems like it could be an opportunity to try that out and see how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. I think even if they go the route of the Fantastic Four stuff, that is going to be more focused on family, and it is this
Mhm.
uh, even more sci-fi space adventure
Yes.
than Guardians of the Galaxy, because they're more like space sci-fi, but these guys are going to be doing everything from time travel to other planets, but it's going to be more science-based than like
Mhm.
heist action. Let's go shoot things and say some funny lines, and I'm going to need
Mhm.
that leg. Like it's gonna be more family. I feel like it's gonna be. I don't want to say more upbeat, but there is this. Just that, like it's. I feel like Fantastic Four has the potential to be the family movie,
Yeah,
whereas
and it
Guardians of the
doesn't.
Galaxy is more the like grown up adult classic rock. Let's go kick ass and take some names and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and it is the Incredibles of the Marvel
Yes,
universe.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. I want
Something
it to
like
be
that
more
would
like
be
that.
nice.
Yeah. So, who knows? We'll see. We will see.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, I might be empty. I would still have people I have to check in with, like Did you see it yet? What were your thoughts? Can we meet up and talk about this soon?
Yes.
Like I have to make the rounds. This has gotten a lot of it out of my system, but I send
Now
a
you also
text.
have some more ammunition to be like, well, what about this and what about that and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's good. Good. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this
Yes.
extremely long
Ugh.
spoiler cast Avengers Endgame discussion review stuff, whatever it was. It's all I've been putting spoiler cast at the end of the titles to be like Hellboy spoiler cast and stuff like
Yeah.
that, so people know we're spoiling it, but we're also recapping it and we're kind of reviewing it and talking about we're discussing things around it and stuff like that. So yeah, good stuff. Fun times have been had for a long 3 hours now.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Go check out all our other podcasts on the whatnauts.com, or you can search the Whatnauts in your favorite podcast app. This will be out on Tuesday on any of those podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube as a video. The video worked fantastically most of the time. Melissa got small a little bit there, but that happens from time to time.
Ant-Man.
Yeah, that was in honor of Ant-Man. But that's that. Melissa, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit. You can go see my outfit I put together for Endgame because I planned it very specifically.
There you go. And I am at Yo Kyle Springer on both Twitter and Instagram. If you guys want updates with this show as well as any of our other podcasts, we are at Twitter. No, we're not. We're not at Twitter. We are at the Whatnauts on Twitter, is what I meant to say. If we ever got that handle, that would be a miracle. Not that I would want that one, but still. We are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. If you guys like this show or any of the other ones we do, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is where you can support us and throw us a buck, and you can get our episodes early, except for this one. We put them out basically as soon as possible. But the review show and the Captain's Log you can get early. You can get access to exclusive content, including our Batman Beyond exclusive episode of the review show. We also have one on there about the X-Files.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. I think we're having one coming up in a couple weeks here about Shrek Retold.
You got the title right this time, Kyle.
I did. Yes. Aha. Do you want to quickly mention what that thing is, and then we can get out of here?
This is a weird one, and that's what our Patreon bonus episodes are for. It's the same format as the review show, the same kind of book clubby discussion, but like kind of weirder, wilder, more curated, specific things. So we were talking about Shrek Retold, which was a huge multimedia project where a bunch of different creators, like mostly animators, got together, took the entirety of Shrek and retold it, and with everybody taking a different scene and portraying it in their own style. And then they put the full thing together. It's the same length as Shrek, the same dialogue, music cues, narrative, exactly everything. And that's all on YouTube.
Fantastic.
Uploaded by the studio to their channel there.
Shrek Retold. That's going to be exciting. Hopefully we'll see you on one of our other podcasts, because that will be fantastic. We will see you guys next time. Maybe for Detective Pikachu? We don't know yet.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
This is a podcast where we never know what we're going to do next. But be on the lookout for potential episodes on Detective Pikachu and Good Omens whenever that comes out. I know Melissa really wanted to talk about that one.
Yeah, that one's just from me.
Exactly. So yes, we will see you guys next time. Adios.
Bye.
Whew, that really was like 3 hours long. Thank you guys for joining us. If you've made it this far, if you like that show and want to check out our other ones, go subscribe to our channel up there. That would be fantastic. And maybe watch one of our other videos. That would be really cool. cool. Leave us a comment below what your thoughts on Endgame were. We'd love to know. Thank you guys. Bye.